Year 2167, the demon race has conquered the last land of humanity. The human world has completely collapsed. Amid the ruins, only one person remains, barely clinging to life. He is Sichin, the SSS rank lightning assassin, humanity's final hope. The scene shifts back 7 years. That was when the demon kings suddenly descended. Leading them was the demon king Lan Yue. With overwhelming power, he swiftly trampled across the land of humankind. Standing before Sichin, Demon King Lan Yue sneered, calling him humanity's last hope while declaring that all of mankind was nothing but fragile, pitiful trash. Lan Yue's arm gathered a mass of dark energy. He proclaimed that it was time for Sichin to fulfill his ultimate purpose. Lan Yue charged forward, roaring that Sichin would become his nourishment and strength. A massive surge of energy erupted. The final confrontation between the two began. No. Sichin felt his body being devoured by the opponent's power. In that life and death moment, the images of his most beloved ones surfaced in his mind, his younger sister, his comrades, and even his master. All of them had their lives taken by these monsters. Fury surged within him. He roared, determined that no matter what, he would drag Lan Yue down to hell with him. Sichin activated his SSS Ter ultimate skill, Terminus Arc. A cataclysmic burst of light engulfed everything. Demon King Lan Yue panicked, realizing he could no longer move. His body began to shatter. He had poured his entire life force into this strike. A memory of his younger sister suddenly flashed through his mind. Then came the image of the master he had always revered. Finally, the joyful moments with his parents. He whispered his last farewell, admitting that he had not been strong enough. In the fading light, Sichin had only one regret. If only I had been a little bit stronger. Swallowed by the radiance, Demon King Lan Yue screamed his final curses as his body gradually disintegrated. If only I could go back to that time and discover that demon lair sooner. If only I could have stopped the very first Demon King. His consciousness slowly faded, leaving only echoes of regret. Then I wouldn't have lost everything so early. In the pitch-black darkness, an eyelid twitched slightly before slowly opening. He jolted awake on a bed that felt both unfamiliar and strangely familiar. He shot upright in shock. Clearly, he had perished together with the Demon King. He was not dead. He looked around the room, trying to figure out where he was. He pushed the door open slightly to look outside, and the scene before him left him stunned. This was the school infirmary, and below, countless students were walking about. Hadn't the world already been destroyed? Where did all these people come from? A torrent of questions flooded his mind. After a long while, he finally accepted this unbelievable reality. He had returned 10 years into the past, back to his days as a university student. Suddenly, a strange sound rang out beside his ear. A system interface appeared before his eyes, announcing, "Power of Gluttony, integration complete." That's right. He had returned to the point before all the tragedies began. He looked at the screen. May 16th, 2157, he had truly gone back 10 years. He realized this was 3 years before the Demon Kings descended. He recalled that 3 years later, in Zigos City, the first Demon King, Wrath, would appear. It was Wrath who opened the gates of hell, allowing the other Demon Kings to invade the human world one after another. That was the true beginning of destruction. And it was also the reason he lost everything. But now he had returned. He clenched his fists, feeling the tangible reality of this moment. His eyes burned with determination. As long as he could defeat the first to appear, Wrath, he could prevent the gates of hell from opening. He had a chance to change everything. He began paying attention to the system interface. What exactly was this power of gluttony interface? It had been hovering before his eyes since he woke up. When he focused on it, a detailed information panel appeared. The status panel displayed his name, Sichin, level 1. But what shocked him was that all attributes from strength, speed, stamina, luck, element, to spirit were at 100. Were these really his current stats? He thought to himself, he had never seen anything like this before. He remembered that in his previous life, those who awakened powers would fight using different classes such as Lightning Assassin or Flame Mage. Out of 10,000 people, only one could become an awakener. And the school he was attending, National Awakener University, specialized in recruiting those with potential, yet sadly, in his previous life, he had failed to awaken throughout all 4 years of university, always regarded as the bottom of the barrel and bullied by anyone. He clicked his tongue. Perhaps that was why he had woken up in the infirmary. He must have been beaten up again. As he was thinking, another notification appeared on the system interface. It was an information card for the class Lightning Assassin with familiar stats and skills. Lightning God infuses the whole body with electricity, instantly increasing movement speed by 10x. Lightning Blade condenses electricity into a blade, attacks have a crit bonus, and striking an enemy's vitals applies a paralysis effect. A lightning-type assassin? He recognized it immediately. This was his class in his previous life. He felt a familiar current of power flowing through his body. Could it be that the strength from his previous life had been inherited? Had he awakened ahead of time? Let's test this power. Immediately, the system began the class conversion process. At that moment, the door to the room burst open. A young man with round glasses and a scholarly appearance walked in. It was Malong, an E-rank flower chanter. Malong hurried over, joyfully exclaiming when he saw that Sichin was awake and anxiously asking about his condition. He replied that he was fine. While glancing at the system interface, as expected, he was the only one who could see it. Malong threw his arms around him, shouting in astonishment when he discovered that all his wounds had vanished. He could hardly believe it. Just yesterday he had been beaten half to death, yet now he had recovered even faster than an awakener like himself. He thought to himself, this was his college roommate Malong. He remembered that although Malong had awakened, he was merely a low-tier support and had died tragically on the 3rd day of the invasion in his previous life. But now, he was standing here alive right before him. Malong was still in shock as he checked his body, feeling as though his friend had grown stronger. Looking at his close friend beside him, he smiled. Only at this moment do I truly feel it. I have really come back. Suddenly, Malong jolted in shock. Suddenly remembering that tomorrow was the ranking test, he hurriedly grabbed Sichin's hand, urging him to go back and prepare. As he dragged his friend along, Malong grumbled that even if Sichin had not awakened yet, this test was still extremely important for graduation evaluation. The two left the infirmary and stepped into the vast campus grounds beneath the morning light. Everywhere was a scene full of vitality, students practicing their skills or playing sports, a peaceful sight that Sichin had not seen for a very long time. He blurted out that it had been a long time since he had seen so many people alive like this. The haunting remark made Malong turn to look at him with a puzzled expression. Worried by his friend's strange attitude, Malong timidly suggested that maybe they should just take a walk around the track field. But at this moment, his heart felt heavy. He had once lost everything completely. And he knew that if he did nothing, that despairing future would soon repeat itself once again. His gaze sharpened. He had to act immediately, had to level up as fast as possible. In this era, there was only one way for an awakened to level up, and that was to eliminate monsters inside demon lairs. But there was a difficult problem. Most demon lairs were monopolized by major guilds. Outsiders like him had no chance to enter and train there. He looked again at his status panel. With his current attributes, he wondered just how strong he was compared to other awakened and monsters. To distinguish power levels, the government had classified awakened and monsters into ranks from S, A, B, C, D down to E. Most students in the school were stuck at E rank. Only a few geniuses or those backed by guilds could reach D rank. Even though he could estimate based on experience, he was still curious what rank he would achieve if he took the test. He glanced at Malong, thinking at the very least he was certainly stronger than this friend. Just then, a basketball suddenly flew over at a terrifying speed, smashing straight into Malong's face. Malong fell flat onto the ground, letting out a cry of pain. From the stands, a group of people spoke up. One of them recognized the two. The leader, a burly man with a buzz cut, spoke in a mocking tone, saying they recovered pretty fast. He was Gong Ting, the one who frequently bullied them. Malong turned pale, his face covered with bandages, stammering about his bad luck, running into this group again. He coldly faced Gong Ting and his group. Gong Ting curled his lips into a sneer, bragging to his companions that these two were really tough. His eyes narrowed. So it was this guy. A few memories from his past life suddenly surfaced. It was a day in the past, when Gong Ting and his lackeys had pressed his head into a toilet sink in the restroom. At that time, Malong had tried to stop them, shouting for them to quit. But Gong Ting only sneered, asking why he should stop when he was helping Sichin. He even said that since Sichin still had not awakened, he needed a little stimulation. The whole group burst into savage laughter at Ma Long's helplessness. Seeing Sichin faint, they grew bored and left. Ma Long hurried over to help his friend up, anxiously calling his name. The Sichin of the past could only cry in humiliation, wondering why they never left him alone. He realized that pure malice did not exist only inside demon lairs. It also existed within the human world itself. He cast aside the memory, his gaze turning colder than ever before. Gong Ting and his companions still wore taunting expressions, deciding to continue picking a fight with him. Back in the present, Gong Ting tilted his chin and asked why, knowing he was playing basketball here, they had not sensibly brought 2 cases of water over. Malong, frightened, hurriedly apologized and said he would go buy them immediately. But Sichin held him back. He said the one at fault was not Malong, the ones who should apologize were them. Gong Ting froze, unable to believe what he had just heard. Malong was just as shocked, stammering as he asked what Sichin was saying. Gong Ting angrily stood up, activating his power, his hands enveloped in streams of green energy. He was an E-rank flower warrior. But Sichin merely watched calmly. He knew Gong Ting well, just a bully who preyed on the weak, relying on his older brother's position as student council president, while his own strength was nothing remarkable. The surrounding students began whispering, realizing Gong Ting was about to hit someone again. They started mocking, calling Sichin and Malong the 2 most useless people in the school, one the weakest awakened, the other not even awakened yet. Gong Ting stomped angrily. He growled, his palm already filled with energy, asking what Sichin had just said. With crimson eyes, Sichin coldly repeated, "Don't come bother us again. I think you really want another beating." Furious, Gong Ting rushed forward and threw a punch. But unexpectedly, Sichin raised just one hand and stopped the powerful punch. Gong Ting staggered backward, his hand numb from the impact. The surrounding crowd fell silent. What just happened? A person who had not awakened actually blocked Gong Ting's punch. Sichin still stood there calmly, as if nothing had happened, despite the astonished gazes fixed on him. Someone else in the crowd refused to believe their eyes, thinking they must be seeing things. Humiliated, Gong Ting roared. "You trash who hasn't awakened, you dare challenge me?" Perfect timing, Sichin curled his lips into a smile. "Let me test my new power on you." The class conversion interface appeared. The conversion process was complete. Sichin was now a level 1 electric assassin. His entire body was wrapped in blazing yellow lightning. Malong's jaw dropped, stammering as he asked when Sichin had awakened. The person before him was no longer the weak friend from before, but a true warrior. "You must have forgotten." Gong Ting roared, activating the skill Indestructible Demon Armor. His arm transformed into a massive, spiked layer of armor. "Taste my killer punch." He poured all his strength into his steel-clad fist. Facing that attack, Sichin also charged forward. His fist flashed with lightning, punching straight into the opponent's face. Instantly, Gong Ting was blasted far away, his body spinning through the air before crashing heavily onto the ground. The entire stadium fell silent. Everyone could not believe their eyes. The weakest person in the school had actually defeated Gong Ting with just one punch. What the hell just happened? Gong Ting lay on the ground, the physical pain far less than the humiliation. He roared, unable to believe that Sichin, the one he had always regarded as trash, had struck him down. The surrounding crowd was also stunned, unable to understand what was happening. He turned to his lackeys who were standing there like statues and shouted loudly, questioning why they were just watching. But the underling trembled, sweat pouring down like rain. He stammered, unable to speak in the face of Sichin's terrifying strength. Facing them, Sichin remained silent, an astonishing killing intent spread out, his eyes flashing with a deadly golden light. Rage overwhelmed reason. Gong Ting let out a roar and charged forward, swearing to kill Sichin. But before absolute power, all efforts were meaningless. Sichin easily grabbed Gong Ting's wrist, stopping his attack. A surge of electricity erupted from Sichin's hand, and the crisp sound of bones breaking rang out. Gong Ting screamed miserably. Sichin stared straight into his opponent's eyes, his voice icy cold, stating a cruel truth. "You are too weak." Immediately after, he threw a thunderous punch, the power of lightning exploding violently. Gong Ting's body was sent flying like a ball, soaring into the air before smashing heavily into the stadium wall, creating a loud explosion. He slid down to the ground, covered in blood, completely unconscious. The battle ended swiftly. Witnessing this scene, Malong, Sichin's close friend, trembled non-stop. He stammered his friend's name, unable to comprehend what had just happened. Sichin merely stood there silently, a trace of blood still lingering on his hand. In Malong's mind, only one question remained. Since when had Sichin become this strong? After the fight, Sichin began analyzing the current situation. A system panel appeared before his eyes, displaying the name Sichin, level 1, along with attributes all at 100. First, he could switch to the electric assassin state at any time. This was his core power from his previous life. Second, even though the system was only level 1, his normal state was already enough to deal with the lowest level awakened. This meant his current level was higher than E rank, but exactly what rank it was still unclear. However, he quickly realized another more important problem. He had clearly defeated Gong Ting, yet the system status panel showed no changes at all. He did not receive even a bit of EXP. A thought flashed through his mind. He looked toward Gong Ting lying motionless, and another surge of electricity began gathering in his hand. Could it be? Seeing this, the crowd immediately panicked. Malong shouted, asking what Sichin was about to do. But Sichin did not stop. He stepped forward and grabbed the defeated man, who was filled with fear. His eyes turned sharp and cold. He wondered whether the way to gain EXP was the same as in the past? A past that only he knew, where finishing off an enemy was the only path to becoming stronger. Please give me a like and a share to support me. Thank you so much, everyone. Sichin's lightning power erupted, a cold and decisive strike aimed straight at the bully. His eyes blazed, no longer the weakling who let others trample over him. At that moment, a gentle yet authoritative voice rang out, reminding everyone that this was a school. The silhouette of a woman appeared. It was Ling Yu, the vice president of the student council. With a confident smile, she declared that even if the bully was at fault first, this level of punishment was enough. She reassured him, promising that from now on, no one would dare lay a finger on him. He released his grip indifferently, the thug collapsing limply onto the ground. Turning to face Ling Yu, his gaze sharpened. He had never intended to do anything serious to that guy. Yet he could not help questioning the student council's eagerness to protect a bully. If people like that were not thoroughly put in their place, they would remain a disaster forever. He turned and walked away, leaving the surrounding crowd silent, terrified by his overwhelming aura. Those who had joined in the bullying now whispered fearfully among themselves. The frightening expression on his face was burned into their minds, making them swear never to provoke him again. No one could believe that the two weakest and poorest students in the school could cause something like this. Ling Yu threw him a meaningful glance before ordering her people to leave. That night, in the boys' dormitory, Malong, his roommate, waved his arms animatedly, trying to convince everyone that he had truly awakened and become an incredibly powerful lightning assassin. He excitedly recounted how Gong Ting and his lackeys had been defeated, leaving them too afraid to even look in their direction anymore. However, Malong's enthusiasm was met with indifference from another roommate, Xiangzhua. He looked bored and asked where Sichin was. Upon hearing that he had gone for a run, Xiangzhua instantly flew into a rage, grabbing Malong and shouting. He refused to believe that someone who had awakened such great power would still need basic physical training, calling it absurd. Another roommate, Xianyu, who was playing games, chimed in, saying Malong's brain must have been damaged from getting beaten up. No one in the room believed his story. Bitterly, Xiangzhua explained why the four of them were assigned to the same room. It was because they were the four lowest-ranked students in the entire cohort, an unchangeable fact. With strange pride, he declared that he ranked fourth from the bottom, meaning he was number 1 in this dormitory. He boasted that he was the only one in the combat class, a nucleus mage, while the others were merely support types. Puffing himself up, he continued bragging that he had recently felt stronger and might soon join a club, completely dismissing Sichin's ability. The argument only stopped when someone mentioned the final ranking test tomorrow. Lan Yue casually remarked that by then, everything would be clear. Who was strong and who was weak, the results would speak for themselves. Meanwhile, at the E-rank training ghost cave, a blazing fiery gate burned fiercely. This was where senior students honed their combat skills. From within the flames, a man stepped out with an overwhelming presence. It was Gong Ting, the president of the student council. The bloodstains on his coat only heightened his dangerous aura. He declared that today's training was over. Immediately, the other members bowed deeply, showing absolute respect. After everyone left, he turned and saw his younger brother, Gong Ting, standing in a dark corner, his face wrapped in bandages. Gong Ting angrily complained, trying to incite his brother. Being bullied in front of so many people was a humiliation, an act of blatant disrespect toward Gong Ting. He listened in silence before replying with a single short word. Understood. Calmly, he added that he would handle this matter for his brother. The cold look in his eyes showed this was no empty promise. The scene shifted to a luxurious dinner. Ling Yu sat across from Gong Ting, asking how he intended to resolve the matter, since his brother was clearly no match for Sichin. Gong Ting appeared doubtful, unwilling to believe that the one who defeated his brother was truly as strong as rumored. He needed clearer confirmation. Ling Yu reminded him that he knew everyone's strength and ranking in the school. Fewer than 10 people had reached D rank, and all of them had already been recruited into his club. She further emphasized that others had no access to ghost caves like he did, making it nearly impossible for them to improve their abilities. She concluded that ordinary awakened individuals had no way to grow, and no one could keep up with Gong Ting's development speed. At the same time, despite the pouring rain, Sichin was still running relentlessly. He was not running casually. On his back was a 100 kilograms weight, and his target was a distance of 20 kilometers. He was pushing his body to its absolute limit. He understood clearly that the limits of an awakened individual were directly tied to physical strength. Only a sufficiently powerful body could harness and unleash higher-tier abilities. Even so, he still felt it was not enough. The obsession from his previous life drove him to become stronger, faster. Horrifying memories flooded back. In the year 2160, the Demon King Wrath descended, slaughtering countless humans in an instant. It was the beginning of annihilation. And the most painful tragedy of his life occurred. His younger sister died at the hands of the Demon King Wrath. That pain remained vivid even now. Wrath was also the one who opened the gates of hell, allowing other demon kings to invade the human world, pushing humanity to the brink of extinction. Returning to reality, his gaze hardened with determination. He had identified the first target in his plan for revenge. That target was none other than the Demon King Wrath, the one who caused all his suffering and humanity's despair. He clenched his teeth. Wrath was the origin of all destruction. 3 years remained before his descent. He had to grow faster than him. Just as his thoughts tightened, his phone suddenly vibrated. He froze. On the screen was a call from Sichin, his younger sister, the one he had helplessly watched die in his previous life. Trembling, he raised the phone to his ear and answered. His emotions were a chaotic storm beyond words. On the other end was Sichin's bright and cheerful voice. She wondered why her brother had called so many times today and explained that her phone had run out of battery after her exam. She excitedly shared that if she won a prize this time, their rent problem would be solved. That hopeful voice was something he had prayed countless times in his previous life just to hear again. Hearing a sniffle, Sichin worriedly asked if it was raining where he was and why he was not speaking. She had no idea that her brother on the other end was crying. Tears blended with the rain, yet a smile formed on his lips. To preserve this moment, he was willing to pay any price. He thought silently. Even if it meant falling into endless hell, it would not matter. He told her that it had simply been too long since he last heard her voice. Sichin innocently replied, "What are you talking about? We just spoke the day before yesterday." She promised to see him after her competition and cheerfully hung up. The call ended, and he stood quietly in the rain. Now that he had another chance, everything had truly begun again. This time, he would not let the tragedy repeat itself. With renewed motivation, he told himself to work even harder. He had to grow as fast as possible to protect everything he cherished. After 8 hours, he returned to the dormitory and quietly entered the room. Everyone was asleep, unaware of the insane training session he had just endured. Under the shower, he felt his body gradually adapting. Though still physically weak, it was far younger than in his previous life, harboring limitless potential. After washing up, he began pondering the core issue. Becoming stronger was not simply about physical training. To level up, he needed to enter a ghost cave. Ironically, all ghost caves were monopolized by major guilds, barring outsiders from approaching. Aside from the powerful and wealthy, most people had no chance to level up. He wondered how he could possibly come into contact with monsters. And the power of gluttony system. What exactly was it? As he pondered, he gradually fell asleep. In his dream, a loading bar appeared. The system was initializing. It seemed the answers to his questions were about to appear. Loading complete, gluttony system activated. He felt his body falling freely into an endless blood-red space. He landed in a strange land, the ground a sea of blood. Before him stood a gigantic eerie tower stretching straight into the sky. Shocked, he realized he was in a completely unfamiliar place. Where was this? Had he not just fallen asleep? He looked up at the colossal tower before him, confusion filling his heart. What was this tower? And why was he here? Before he could gather himself, skeletal monsters began rising from the sea of blood. They were death hounds, E-rank monsters. Startled, he wondered if this was a ghost cave. Immediately, a system notification appeared, class conversion in progress. Conversion complete. He was switched to the class Lightning Assassin level 1. Though he did not understand what was happening, he decided to deal with the trouble in front of him first. The Death Hounds charged, but they did not know that their opponent was an SSS rank assassin from a previous life. He moved like lightning, effortlessly dodging attacks and delivering lethal strikes. Each time a monster fell, a notification appeared, showing he had obtained the item Death Forest. With his current strength, dealing with these E-rank monsters was child's play. He easily wiped out the entire pack. Every sword stroke and kick was precise and powerful, leaving the monsters no chance to retaliate. Blood splattered everywhere. The sensation was too real. This was definitely not a dream. He realized he was truly fighting to survive. After eliminating them all, a large notification appeared. Level up. He had reached level 2. Most importantly, he could gain experience and level up here. All his stats increased by 5 points, especially strength and speed, which were multiplied by a coefficient, skyrocketing dramatically. He had truly obtained a ghost cave, a place where he could solo raid and grow stronger. His biggest problem had been solved. Suddenly a boss appeared. It was the Wolf King, an E-rank cloud warrior. He showed no fear, instead revealing interest. He thought, "Good, then I will use this place to test my limits." The boss was swiftly defeated by his lightning attacks. He gained a massive amount of experience, enough to immediately reach level 3. Experience from a boss was far greater than that of ordinary monsters of the same rank. In a short time, he had gained 2 levels. His stats surged once again. After the Wolf King collapsed, a strange notification appeared over its corpse. Devourable. He stood at a distance, confused. His eyes widened in surprise at the sudden message. What did Devour mean? The corpse was slowly sinking into the sea of blood, yet the notification remained suspended. An idea flashed through his mind. He raised his hand toward the corpse, a strange light gathering at his fingertips. Could this be the true meaning of power of gluttony? He wondered, eyes blazing as the energy in his hand intensified. A massive surge of energy burst from his hand, enveloping the Wolf King's corpse and pulling it toward him. The energy condensed in his palm, compressing into a brilliant point of light. Devour complete. The monster had been absorbed and transformed into a card. The card displayed the class Cloud Warrior and the passive skill Frost Physique, immunity to cold. He could not believe his eyes. He could truly devour enemies after killing them and turn them into his own class. This completely shattered every rule he had ever known. A terrifying yet thrilling realization surged within him. He stood stunned, pupils contracting. This power. It was exactly like the power of the demon king Lan Yue, humanity's final enemy in his previous life. Memories of the final battle flooded back, when Lan Yue used a similar power to absorb and annihilate everything. He realized in shock that the power he now possessed was the power of the demon king Lan Yue. Power of gluttony originally belonged to a demon king, yet somehow, after his rebirth, he had seized it. Now, that power belonged to him. His eyes burned with determination and ambition. Looking back to his previous life, Sichin had already been the strongest, yet he was still powerless before the demon king. Now, reborn, with eyes burning in hatred, he declared that he would possess countless classes and shatter every law of the world. But after the surge of excitement faded, he began to wonder why he had obtained this power. Where had this second chance at life truly come from? And more importantly, what was the towering demonic structure standing before him? This was clearly not the dormitory he had just returned to. Suddenly, a horrifying pressure surged from the tower, as if the surrounding space itself were about to shatter. He gritted his teeth and resisted. The pressure was beyond imagination, suffocating him. What the hell was going on? From deep within the tower, a cold voice echoed, declaring that it had been waiting for him for a very long time. A shadow slowly emerged, clad in tattered armor and radiating dense deathly aura. It was a lord of hell. It stared straight at him, and called his name. In this world, the combat power of both awakened and monsters was ranked by the government from E, D, C, B, A and the highest S, yet the lord's casual strike sent him flying. With a single blow, he was knocked away like a puppet, utterly unable to resist. Struggling to his feet and gasping for air, he recalled that in his previous life, he had paid an immense price just to reach S rank. Right now, his combat power was at best only D rank. But the one standing before him was a genuine S rank boss. The gap in rank was far too great, his stats completely crushed. He could not comprehend it. What kind of hellish lair was this that an S rank monster would appear here? And the strangest part, how did it know his name? The mystery only deepened. Dozens of exchanges had passed. He realized the boss had countless chances to finish him, yet it chose not to. Another strike sent him flying again, but he could clearly sense the opponent was holding back. Every attack avoided his vital points. It was merely toying with him, effortlessly knocking him down again and again. Beneath the cloak, the voice of Purgatory Rakshasa echoed once more, sounding impatient. Still want to resist? He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. Now he understood. It wanted him to submit. The boss formally made its offer. It told him to reconsider and stay here with it to guard this demonic tower, calling it a rare opportunity. But in his eyes there was only resolve. He growled that no matter what happened, he would never remain in this hell. Instantly a streak of purple sword energy pierced through his shoulder. This was the price of refusal. Pain surged through him, yet he did not waver. He had endured far worse than this. Purgatory Rakshasa roared, unable to understand why such a weak human dared defy it. It said its patience was only because he was the only one capable of reaching this place. As its words fell, the ground trembled. From the sea of blood below, countless skeletal monsters rose, ready to obey their lord. Dark energy exploded violently around Purgatory Rakshasa. Its strength and stamina stats skyrocketed as it roared its final question. It delivered an ultimatum, either stay or be crushed into dust. Facing the threat, he merely narrowed his eyes as lightning began crackling around him. He enunciated each word. I choose to kill you. The moment he finished speaking, lightning erupted as he charged straight at the S-rank boss. Purgatory Rakshasa sneered, finding the action ridiculous. It swung its massive blade, unleashing a devastating attack. He moved like thunder, weaving past falling debris and closing in on the boss. He needed to get close, needed to observe it at close range. And just as expected, during those brief clashes, he had already discerned its weakness. With the experience of an SSS assassin, he analyzed instantly. Before each blade swing, there was a 0.4 second startup. That moment was enough to observe the angle of its wrist. From that, he could predict the trajectory of the blade and dodge within a hair's breadth. This was a gamble with death. More importantly, after each attack, there was a 0.2-second recovery delay. That was the fatal opening. As long as he aiming at that opening, when it was completely defenseless, he would pierce its heart in an instant. He gathered all his lightning into his hand and unleashed the decisive strike. The skill lightning blade activated, thrusting straight into Purgatory Rakshasa's chest. Although a D-rank attack could not kill an S-rank, its paralysis effect would restrain the opponent for a few seconds. Without a second of hesitation, he immediately activated Lightning God, channeling electricity through his entire body to increase his movement speed tenfold. He had to seize every millisecond. These precious seconds were all he needed to escape. During the battle, he had observed and identified the only source of light within this bizarre space. That was his way out. He dashed madly toward the light, his hand almost touching it. But suddenly, the light vanished? He faltered, falling freely in shock. The voice of Purgatory Rakshasa echoed behind him. It turned out to be nothing more than an illusion it had created. The exit he sought never existed, because this was no ordinary demonic lair. The boss transformed into a higher form, admitting that his ability to find flaws in its attacks so quickly was truly interesting. It cast off its cloak, revealing the true form of Purgatory Rakshasa, a 1-star S-rank star warrior. It looked at him and acknowledged that he was indeed someone capable of bringing hope. He stood stunned. That appearance. He had seen it once before on the Demon King Lan Yue, the one who destroyed his world in his previous life. Purgatory Rakshasa continued, saying it admired how he could calmly analyze and risk everything to seek even the faintest glimmer of hope, even under the crushing pressure of despair. As Sichin froze, this appearance. I've seen it once before, on the body of Demon King Lan Yue. Memories flooded back. It was the final battle of his previous life, a heaven-shaking confrontation. In that battle, Lan Yue had switched effortlessly between high-tier classes, from frost to hellfire, then to the power of life and death, and even raging lightning. He seemed to have mastered every system of power. He remembered it clearly. Among the countless forms, there was one that looked exactly like this. He thought to himself, could it be that this one was devoured by Lan Yue's gluttony power? And now that this power has fused into my body, a terrifying thought flashed through his mind. Could it be that this place is actually the space inside my own body? A hoarse voice continued to echo, Humph, not only is your mental fortitude impressive, but you're also sharp as a razor. You've proven yourself worthy of everything this place holds. Everything here? He was stunned, unable to fully grasp the meaning of those words. Before him, an SSS rank key named Key of the Void appeared. Purgatory Rakshasa explained that it was the only key leading to the gate of Demonic Tower. He revealed that he had once devoured countless vicious demons, and the strongest among them were sealed inside the tower behind him. Devour them, become stronger, let everything become your fuel. The temptation laced with absolute power echoed, striking directly at his instincts. Sichin accepted the key, yet suspicion filled his heart as he asked, Why are you doing this? Why help me like this? Purgatory Rakshasa explained that even among the demon race there existed a boundary between good and evil. He spoke with fury about how the Demon King had slaughtered his entire clan merely to satisfy their boundless greed. He had waited for an opportunity for revenge for a very long time, and now that chance stood right before him. Purgatory Rakshasa declared that Sichin was the only hope capable of succeeding. He frowned and pressed further about that person Purgatory Rakshasa had mentioned. But Purgatory Rakshasa only replied that all answers were hidden within the tower, and urged him to seek them himself. After saying that, Purgatory Rakshasa demanded that he accept his power and make them pay. His body began dissolving into pure energy. Accept your power? He was shocked by the sudden turn of events. Purgatory Rakshasa roared one final time, declaring that from this moment onward, he must become invincible. He commanded him to open the gate of Demonic Tower and devour everything within. In his final moments before vanishing, Purgatory Rakshasa warned that the demons inside would not be as easy to deal with as he was. They were the most cunning and vicious entities to have ever existed. His final words continued to echo. He forced him to endure everything, conquer everything, and stand at the very pinnacle of this world. Until the very end, he must devour each and every one of those Demon King. It was both a mission and a curse. The soul of Purgatory Rakshasa dissipated, leaving behind his final words. Only a man with that kind of resolve is worthy of my power. In the crimson sea of blood, he stood alone, watching the soul of Purgatory Rakshasa fade away completely. A massive surge of energy began pouring into his body, the progress bar advanced, the system was processing. A burst of golden light exploded, a notification appeared, devouring, level up, Sichin has reached level 10. Along with it, items dropped, 2 pieces of Rakshas's underworld bone. His gaze turned cold, he understood, he would carry that will forward. Devouring complete, the Purgatory Rakshasa card rested in his hand, Sichin clenched his teeth, swearing to make them pay in blood. Star Warrior, Bone Grip Ruin, absorbs the stamina and strength of nearby corpses, converting them into the user's own power. Triple Gravity Strike, manipulates gravity to attack enemies in 3 forms, light, heavy, and overload. Suddenly, a voice from reality called everyone to wake up. He slowly opened his eyes. He jolted awake, realizing he was on the bunk bed in the dormitory. His roommates were hurriedly getting ready, urging each other to put on their uniforms to avoid being late. He was still dazed. I have already returned to the dormitory? He checked his body. Every wound had completely vanished. A question surfaced in his mind. Could everything have just been a dream? But no, the system panel appeared before his eyes, proving that everything was real. Level 10, all attributes at 150, and even the spoils he had obtained in the dream had returned with him. In just one night, he had leapt to level 10. He wondered, with this strength, what rank would he be placed in? At that moment, a roommate, Xiangzhua, approached and called his name. Xiangzhua sneered, saying that someone had bragged last night about how powerful he had become. Malong beside him could only remain silent in embarrassment. Xiangzhua looked at him with a challenging gaze, claiming he wanted to overthrow his number 1 position in the dormitory. He pulled him along, saying the ranking test was about to begin, and now was the time to see his true strength. On the way, Xiangzhua boasted smugly. He said that although their dormitory looked like a bunch of E-rankers, each rank was divided into 3 tiers. They were only E-low, while he had already reached E-mid. He explained that the gap between each tier was enormous. Alone, he could take on 10 Elo at the same time. As they walked, Xiangzhua continued praising himself. Hoping his rank had improved since the last test, he simply followed silently behind. Malong, the kind-hearted roommate, whispered encouragement. He advised him to give it his all, aim for D rank, and scare Xiangzhua out of his wits. He merely curled his lips slightly and muttered indifferently. D rank, huh? The group finally arrived. Xiangzhua and Malong were surprised to see that everyone had already gathered. The courtyard of National Awakener University was packed. On the giant screen were the words official ranking examination ceremony. The atmosphere was electric. The long-awaited day had finally arrived. Suddenly, a noisy crowd appeared, knocking another student aside. Xiangzhua was startled to recognize them as Gong Cheng's lackeys. Xiangzhua hurriedly advised the group to stay away. The white-haired leader looked extremely dangerous. But it was too late. The lackeys had already noticed them. Xiangzhua's face turned deathly pale, terrified beyond measure. Only he maintained a cold expression, showing no reaction at all. Yet contrary to expectations, the previously aggressive lackeys suddenly changed expressions. They panicked upon recognizing him. Then they hurried over and bowed respectfully. Big brother Sichin, you've arrived. Xiangzhua was stunned. Why were they showing such respect? Could it be that everything Malong said was true? Malong simply crossed his arms smugly. He walked past silently, ignoring the people bowing before him. Suddenly, a voice called out to him. His eyes sharpened. A man with blue-gray hair and a playful demeanor approached. He introduced himself as Jiang Jian, a student council committee member. With sarcasm, he inquired about the minor incident yesterday between Sichin and Gong Ting. Jiang Jian continued with a sinister smile, emphasizing that Gong Ting was the younger brother of their respected president, Lord Gong Ting. The surrounding crowd began whispering. That's Jiang Jian from the student council. Everyone knew he was the president's close subordinate, a D-rank powerhouse. They did not understand why he was targeting Sichin, but the atmosphere had clearly grown heavy. Jiang Jian arrogantly boasted that his sense of smell was keen. capable of detecting the scent of a true powerhouse from miles away. He leaned close and insulted him. But from you, I only smelled the pathetic stench of a permanent bottom feeder. He remained calm, replying with a short yet disdainful sentence. Are you a dog? That remark stunned Jiang Jian, who immediately flew into a rage. What did you say? Just as Jiang Jian was about to make a move, an authoritative voice rang out from behind, ordering him to stop. It was the student council president, Gong Ting. He stated that he had investigated thoroughly and that Gong Ting was at fault in this matter. After speaking, Gong Ting turned and walked away, declaring that wrongdoing must be paid for. Jiang Jian could only bow his head in obedience. Gong Ting cast a cold glance at Sichin, seemingly evaluating him. He did not avoid the gaze, his eyes meeting the opponents directly. A silent confrontation unfolded. A teacher standing on the stage announced, "Attention students, the grade test will begin shortly. We will conduct the test in order of student number. Please come up to the stage in an orderly manner when you hear your name." Gong Ting invited Jiang Jian to prepare. In his mind, he assessed that this Sichin did not seem like much of a threat. Jiang Jian followed happily. From above, a figure was silently observing everything. It was Ling Yu, a senior member of the student council. In a high-rise office overlooking the courtyard, a man in a long robe asked Ling Yu why she had come to watch the test today. Had someone caught her attention? Ling Yu merely smiled meaningfully and replied that this examination might be very interesting. An hour later, the tests were still ongoing. The loudspeaker called the next name, Xiangzhua. His friends below cheered enthusiastically. Xiangzhua stepped forward with determination, telling himself this was the moment to see his true strength. He walked through the energy gate. This test had to be conducted individually inside a specially constructed training demon lair. Inside was a demon heart, a demonic heart capable of absorbing energy. The awakened had to release all their energy before the demon heart. Xiangzhua exerted himself fully, forming a blazing energy sphere. The energy shot straight into the demon heart. Demon heart absorbed it, and began transmitting the sensed energy through cables to the external device. The signal was sent to the result display gate. Finally, the energy was shown on the screen in data form. Xiangzhua's result appeared, E rank, mid-tier. The supervising teacher confirmed the result had been recorded but wondered why the remaining data had yet to appear. The crowd below, especially Malong, grew excited. It's coming, this is the main part. In addition to the current rank, this machine could also measure another metric, potential, the highest tier a person could achieve in the future. The letter C slowly appeared. Those with high potential would receive special attention from the government. The test was complete. Current rank, E rank mid-tier, maximum potential, C. Xiangzhua walked out disappointed, muttering that his rank had not improved in 2 years. He had hoped to reach D rank. The next name was called. Xiangzhua slumped onto the steps. Malong and the others hurried over to comfort him, saying he need not be upset since they were even weaker. The group sighed together. Xiang Yu and Malong had only achieved E low, potential C. They wondered whether anyone would reach D rank this year. At that moment, a shocking result appeared on the screen, D low, potential B. Xiangzhua and Malong were left gaping in astonishment. The first D rank of the year had appeared. The crowd below erupted in cheers. Shortly after, another impressive result emerged. Jiang Jian stepped out, achieving D low with potential A. Malong and the others were speechless. He muttered in shock that this was already the 8th D rank this year. On the observation platform, 2 professors could not hide their astonishment. They remarked that this year's cohort had too many D-tier talents, something rare among those without real combat experience. At this rate, the graduation combat evaluation would surely be highly anticipated. Then, the loudspeaker called the next name, Gong Ting. He stepped out, adjusting his tie with the bearing of a true powerhouse. The crowd exploded. It's the president, the young master of Imperial Guild. Countless prestigious titles were shouted. Amid the sea of people, Sichin watched silently. People began discussing. It was said that 2 years ago Gong Ting had already reached D rank. The highest record in the school's history was only D mid-tier. No one dared to guess what tier he would achieve now. Inside the testing chamber, the demon heart seemed to sense the terrifying energy approaching. Its eyes slowly opened. Gong Ting stepped forward, eyes calculating. He thought to himself that only by revealing his full strength during the graduation evaluation could he cause the greatest sensation, for now, he needed to hold some power back. Even so, he confidently declared, "I will be the number one in this school's history." On the screen, the two energy columns of rank and potential began fluctuating violently. One of the observing professors gasped. "That color is..." The final result appeared, rank D, high tier, potential. S. The entire courtyard erupted. D high tier? And S rank potential? People screamed in shock and excitement. Jiang Jian and the lackeys cheered wildly. As expected of the president, long live the president. This is the first time in the school's history someone has achieved this. Malong and his friends stood dumbfounded. Their school had truly produced an S-rank potential individual? They had witnessed history. The professors on the monitoring platform confirmed the result. One asked whether they should report directly to higher authorities. Of course, the other replied immediately. An awakened with S-rank potential was a rare treasure worldwide and would undoubtedly receive state-level protection, not to mention he was the noble son of Imperial Guild. This news would certainly shock the entire nation. Gong Ting stood there, enjoying everyone's admiration. His result had been confirmed. D high tier S potential. Back in the high-rise office, the man in the long robe commented that this year's examination had indeed produced many talents. He turned to look at Ling Yu and said, "You knew Gong Ting was an S-rank potential user long ago, right? No wonder you came to watch the show today." Yuan Long, National Awakener University principal. "No, I didn't come just for him." "Oh?" Compared to Gong Ting, I'm looking forward to his performance more. Next grade tester, Sichin. Jiang Jian looked at Sichin and his friends with contempt, mocking them as a bunch of losers. He burst into manic laughter, warning that if their results were E-rank again, the entire dormitory would become the laughingstock of the whole school. Jiang Jian's words drilled into the harsh truth. His friends, including Xiangzhua, Xiangyu, and Malong, were all only E-rank, with the highest potential being C. He asserted that with such strength, participating in the graduation assessment exam would only bring humiliation upon themselves. Unable to endure it any longer, Malong shouted angrily, declaring that Sichin would make everyone see the truth. At the same time, Sichin had already stepped into the evaluation gate. His name appeared on the giant screen, ready for the fateful test that would determine his future. Outside, his friends could not hide their anxiety. They wondered whether he could truly accomplish something, while Jiang Jian sneered, waiting to watch a good show. Inside the evaluation space, an energy core floated in midair, connected by countless cables to a strange entity above. This was the system that would measure Sichin's power. Suddenly, the single eye of the monitoring entity opened, signaling the official start of the test. Facing it, Sichin stood firm, a crimson glint flashing in his eyes. His aura completely changed, no longer that of an ordinary E-rank student. In this world, the best path for an awakened with a future was to join a top guild, and the only chance to prove oneself to them was at the graduation assessment exam, where students had to face real combat trials. The exam required students to freely form teams of 10, creating fierce competition to recruit the strongest teammates. And the highest reward, the team that secured first place, would be directly recruited into the most prestigious guild in the nation, Imperial Guild. This was not merely a ranking test, but a battle for the future. While Sichin was still inside the testing chamber, Jiang Jian had quickly assembled a powerful team. He introduced a new member to his captain, Yan Lin, who had just achieved D rank low tier. With Yan Lin's addition, their team was complete. Jiang Jian proudly boasted that his lineup included all 9 students who had advanced to D rank this year, confidently declaring that first place was already theirs. In such a competitive environment, the strongest team naturally formed with ease. Gong Ting, the student council president, smiled smugly amid the cheers. He firmly believed the MVP of the exam would be none other than himself. And of course, the weakest team formed just as naturally. The discarded weak gathered together. Like Malong's group, it was the brutal law of survival. The strong cooperate, the weak are eliminated. As time passed, Malong began to grow anxious. He wondered why Sichin had been inside for so long. On the giant screen, Sichin's name remained there, there was absolutely no change in rank or potential. The crowd began to lose patience and mock him. They assumed he was too weak to even register a rank and suggested returning to the dormitory. Jiang Jian turned to Gong Ting and suggested they go sing karaoke to celebrate, claiming the rest were trash not worth waiting for. Gong Ting calmly nodded in agreement, instructing Jiang Jian to gather the team and leave. He also did not believe Sichin could create any surprise. But just as they were about to depart, the ranking display screen suddenly glitched. Something was happening. To everyone's astonishment, a massive letter D appeared on the screen, with the words Heiter beneath it. The entire stadium fell silent at the shocking result. Malong and the others could not believe their eyes. They stood frozen, mouths agape, staring at the screen in extreme disbelief. The silence was broken by Malong's cheer. Overwhelmed with excitement, he shouted at the crowd. "See, I told you so." Gong Ting and Jiang Jian turned back, their faces changing drastically. They could not believe an E rank had suddenly become D high tier. Inside the chamber, the system announced that an anomaly had been detected in the magic core and the result might be inaccurate. Requesting Sichin to retest, the monitoring core began to tremble. Sichin merely smirked. That had only been the result using his normal level 10 body without switching class. He realized that level 10 already corresponded to D high tier. In that case, his palm emitted a green glow. The system began the class switching process. Process complete, he switched to the class Gravehound King. Half of his face turned skeletal, his eyes burning crimson. He decided to test his weakest class first. Outside, the screen glitched once more. The D high tier letters began to fade. Then, a new character appeared, the letter C, mid-tier, C rank mid-tier. The crowd was once again shaken. Malong shouted in shock, unable to understand why his rank had risen yet again. Gong Ting and Jiang Jian completely lost composure, yelling that this was absurd and must be a system malfunction. Even the technicians were baffled. They had never seen a case where rank changed repeatedly like this and began suspecting an internal system error. The monitoring core inside shook more violently, the system continuously issuing anomaly warnings. It seemed to be under immense pressure. Sichin smiled. If that was the case, his remaining two classes must be above C rank. He decided to stop holding back. Purple energy erupted as the system began another transition. Class change complete. Abyssal Fiend. Dark energy surged around him. He declared it was time to test his full strength. Abyssal Fiend, a star warrior class with terrifying skills such as mass skeletal void, absorbing power from corpses, and triple calamity manipulating gravity. The overload of energy caused the monitoring core to pound wildly, as if about to shatter. Outside, the sky suddenly darkened. A massive energy vortex formed directly above the stadium. The vortex grew larger, purple lightning striking down. All students panicked, not understanding what was happening. Everyone looked up at the sky in horror. Gong Ting and his followers were no exception. His friends reacted differently. They whispered that this was a divine phenomenon, and that today would surely be recorded in history. They feared their dormitory had produced a true monster. Meanwhile, the display screen began fluctuating again, the data jumping erratically. The potential column began showing a new character. A massive distorted S slowly formed. The technicians gaped in terror. Another S-rank potential? That was impossible. Gong Ting, who always considered himself the sole genius, broke into a cold sweat, his eyes filled with disbelief and shock at the emergence of a potential rival. But it went even further. After the S appeared, a red warning line displayed beneath it. It seemed even S rank was not his limit. The S transformed, glowing red as the warning text displayed clearly, system error. Then it turned into 3 massive distorted S letters. The system officially announced, unable to determine potential value. Maximum limit exceeded. Jiang Jian let out a shrill scream, unable to accept the reality before him. Immediately after, a terrifying explosion sounded. The magic core, a machine worth billions, shattered into pieces. The technicians panicked. They shouted that the magic core had overloaded and rushed inside to check whether any students were in danger. They charged into the thick smoke, calling out Sichin's name in extreme anxiety. But upon approaching, one of them froze. The sight before him rendered him speechless. The magic core was dead. Its soul had completely dissipated, leaving behind only a hollow smoking shell. They could only conclude that the machine had been used for too long today, causing the accident. Meanwhile, Sichin walked away quietly as if nothing had happened. He thought to himself that he might have pushed the magic core too far, but at least there were some benefits from the incident. The system announced devouring complete. His gluttony power had absorbed energy from the magic core, granting him a new A-rank skill, delicate magical core, allowing detection of the rank of all objects within a 100-meter radius. When the chamber door opened, Sichin stepped out into suffocating silence. He immediately activated the new skill. Delicate magical core. His vision changed. He could clearly see the ranks of everyone around him. Most were only E rank, low or high tier. He smirked, the ability to see through everyone's rank. How convenient. His gaze stopped on Gong Ting, so the president was hiding his true strength as well. But in Sichen's eyes, C rank mid-tier? Still mediocre. A technician stepped out, announcing that the magic core had malfunctioned due to overload and today's test would be temporarily suspended. He added that the ranking data might have been corrupted and would be reported to higher authorities. Students who had not been tested would return tomorrow. His friends surrounded him, cheering joyfully. Malong declared he did not care about the data. Sichin was a genius. They happily suggested returning to the dormitory. But Jiang Jian blocked their path. He roared that trash like Sichin could not possibly be C rank, let alone S rank potential. It was obviously due to machine failure. He blamed everything on him, shouting that because of him the student council members had to wait until tomorrow for testing, and demanded compensation for their wasted time. Sichin began losing patience. Golden lightning flickered in his hand. He thought this guy was truly noisy. Perhaps it would be better to eliminate him altogether. At that moment, a voice sounded from behind. Gong Ting stepped forward. Ordering his subordinate to be silent, he said they should not be rude to teammates. That statement surprised both Jiang Jian and Sichen's group. Teammates? What did Gong Ting mean? Gong Ting extended his hand, inviting Sichin to join his team for the assessment exam. He confidently declared that with their combination, they would surely achieve the highest score in history. He merely looked at the invitation coldly. The entire courtyard held its breath awaiting his answer. The crowd buzzed. The student council president Gong Ting had personally invited him to join the strongest team in school. It was an honor not granted to everyone. Jiang Jian broke into a cold sweat. He knew that if Sichin joined, someone would be kicked out, and a position on Gong Ting's team meant guaranteed first place in the graduation exam. Jealousy surged within him. Many people, even those who bribed, could not enter the team. What was so special about Sichin? But since Gong Ting had personally invited him, Jiang Jian dared not act rude publicly. He forced out a fake smile. Gritting his teeth, he placed a hand on Sichin's shoulder, pretending friendliness. Ha ha, then, welcome to the team. But Sichin coldly brushed his hand away. A short, decisive reply rang out. Not interested. Both Jiang Jian and Gong Ting froze. The president's eyes flashed with astonishment. He had not expected anyone to dare reject him. Jiang Jian stammered angrily that their team was the strongest in the school. Sichin replied with a single phrase, I don't care. Then he turned away, crimson eyes blazing with killing intent, delivering a final warning. You're too noisy, don't bother me again. After speaking, Sichin led his friends away, leaving Jiang Jian standing there, furious yet powerless. The surrounding crowd could not believe it. Sichin had rejected Gong Ting. Some admired his courage, but others worried he had offended the student council president. They began speculating that Sichin was also aiming for first place, and with C-rank mid-tier results, the upcoming battle would certainly be interesting. Meanwhile, his friends could not hide their delight. Malong mocked Jiang Jian's embarrassed expression. Clearly, their friend had been incredibly bold. Gong Ting, unlike his subordinate's anger, remained calm. He told Jiang Jian it was fine. Perhaps Sichin had his own plans. From another corner of the courtyard, others were also observing the situation. The old principal showed regret. He had hoped a new school record would be set this year. But Ling Yu beside him smiled. She believed this only made things more interesting. She analyzed that Gong Ting had been born with a golden spoon, and Sichin rejecting him was essentially a declaration of war. But she added that their president was not someone easily bullied. A dramatic confrontation was about to unfold. Back to Gong Ting, Jiang Jian was still resentful. He believed Sichin had only stood out due to a system error, yet could not deny the fact that he was C rank. Gong Ting narrowed his eyes. What if the test had not been wrong? Even if there was only a 1 in a million chance, he would never allow anyone to steal his number 1 position. Jiang Jian immediately flattered him, saying Sichin was just an ordinary student without real combat experience. He suggested secretly teaching him a lesson. Gong Ting cast him a sharp glance and asked, "Do I look like a petty person?" Jiang Jian hurriedly denied it, saying he had not meant that. Gong Ting turned away, saying he was no longer in the mood for karaoke. He told Jiang Jian and the team to go without him, his mind now fully focused on the new rival, Sichin. He continued, saying that whatever Jiang Jian chose to do had nothing to do with him, it was an implicit permission. Jiang Jian stood stunned for a moment. Then a sinister smile spread across his face. Understood, it has nothing to do with you. He had understood Gong Ting's meaning. About 10 minutes later, a lackey reported to Jiang Jian that Sichin was not at school. The lackey said he had overheard Sichin mentioning he would go home for a while and had not even had time to eat. Jiang Jian crushed a soda can underfoot. He exclaimed, "Even God is on my side." A cruel smile spread across his lips. Outside the school, anything can happen. At the same time, Sichin was strolling down the street, unaware of the scheme targeting him. He left the campus and entered the city. His goal was no longer petty school conflicts. He recalled his previous life. Back then, a top guild had attacked a dungeon in the Holy Land and encountered a horrific accident. They had confronted a monster stronger than anything they had ever seen. That monster was named Wrath. In the end, the entire guild was annihilated. Afterward, Wrath escaped the dungeon and brought disaster upon the human world. That was all the information Sichin knew. In this life, to locate the exact position of the dungeon containing Wrath as early as possible, he had devised a plan. And to begin that plan, he needed a great deal of money. He stopped before a magnificent building, Mithril Monster Exchange. Mithril Monster Exchange of Guild Mithril, which in the future would become the largest resource supplier in the nation. Weapons and equipment were crucial factors determining the strength of an awakened. This exchange was the key intermediary for trading equipment, and also the fastest way for Sichin to make money right now. At the Mithril Trading Center, an appraiser held up a monster fang. His eyes filled with astonishment. He could not believe that a student could obtain items like these. Sichin replied calmly that they had dropped from a monster, which only deepened the employee's suspicion since such a thing had never happened before. Standing nearby, a pink-haired staff member, Miss Lee, suddenly recognized it. She exclaimed that it was the fang of a gravehound, an E-rank monster. Miss Lee began murmuring about their uses, saying they could be forged into a magic staff or ground into powder, but the employee immediately dismissed it, claiming that an E-rank item was hardly worth anything. He arrogantly declared that this place operated under a VIP system, serving only reputable awakened and trading exclusively in items ranked D or above. That was why he did not recognize this cheap E-rank item. Inwardly, the employee was grumbling. There had been no big clients lately, and at this rate, his dream of a promotion would remain far out of reach. He glanced at Sichin, thinking how unlucky he was to keep running into brats bringing scrap items. He decided to shove this burden onto the new employee. Acting on that thought, he called out loudly, handed Sichin's order over to Miss Lee, then turned and walked away irresponsibly. After completing the transaction, Miss Lee handed the money to Sichin and politely asked if he needed any further assistance. Sichin accepted the money, 18,000, just enough to cover this month's rent. His gaze did not waver in the slightest. Then he spoke again, saying he still had one more item. A stream of purple light began flowing from his palm. In an instant, a massive great sword radiating dense purple demonic energy appeared in his hand. He requested that it be appraised. Miss Lee was completely overwhelmed. She stammered in praise of how cool the great sword looked, her eyes wide with shock. Although she had never seen it before, she was certain it had to be at least a B-rank weapon, no, perhaps even A-rank. The employee from earlier returned and upon hearing Miss Lee's words sneered. He mocked her, saying that an A-rank weapon on the market cost millions, something he had never even seen in all his years of work. Suddenly, a steady voice sounded from behind. A strange man stated firmly that this equipment was certainly not A or B rank. Both the employee and Miss Lee turned around in surprise. Recognizing the newcomer, the employee immediately changed his attitude. Flattering him and praising his sharp eye, he laughed awkwardly, confident that a poor student could never possess such a valuable item. The man with teal hair, Ching Xi, lightly pushed up his glasses. He stared at the blade and made a shocking declaration. It clearly comes from the abyssal lands. This is an S-rank piece of equipment. S-rank? The employee and Miss Lee were stunned. The employee's face turned pale, sweat pouring down like rain, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. Instantly, Ching Xi's attitude shifted completely. He hurriedly grasped Sichin's hand. Ching Xi bowed slightly, wearing a warm smile as he declared that it was a great honor for their establishment to receive Sichin's visit. The employee behind him could only stand there speechless. He personally invited Sichin into the VIP lounge, promising to meet any request he might have. Miss Lee quietly followed behind, holding the S-rank great sword in her hands. Sichin curled his lips into a faint smile. His eyes were cold as he murmured under his breath, "So you finally appeared, Ching Xi." Everything was proceeding exactly according to his plan. That man was Ching Xi, the guild leader of the Mithril Guild, a force far from insignificant within the awakened community. Inside a luxurious room, the atmosphere was somewhat tense. Ching Xi, the manager, after taking a sip of tea, went straight to the point and asked Sichin about the price of the precious equipment placed on the table. Sichin did not hesitate at all, his gaze remaining calm as he gave a brief number. 1 million. Ching Xi froze, his glasses nearly slipping off. He could not believe his ears and asked again with extreme disbelief. "You only want 1 million? He explained that even A-rank equipment already costs millions. An S-rank weapon like this should be worth tens of millions on the market, possibly even sparking a frenzied bidding war. Hearing this, Sichin finally revealed his true intention. He was not selling it, but wanted to use this S-rank weapon as collateral for a 1 million loan, promising to repay it within 1 month. Ching Xi immediately fell into deep thought. Using an S-rank weapon to borrow money? This was not the thinking of an ordinary college student. He quickly realized that Sichin had no intention of selling the blade, a move far more shrewd than his appearance suggested. While Sichin leisurely enjoyed his tea, Ching Xi continued analyzing. Was he a runaway heir from a wealthy family, or a genius hiding his strength? Either way, he was certain of one thing: this young man was anything but ordinary. Sichin stated his condition with absolute confidence, that he would repay the principal within the first month and add 10% interest in the following month. After a moment of consideration, Ching Xi decided this was an important discussion. He turned and asked his assistant, Miss Lee, to step outside temporarily. When only the two of them remained in the room, the atmosphere grew more serious. Ching Xi began his sharp analysis. He lightly pushed up his glasses, his eyes flashing with insight. He mentioned that Sichin was studying at National Awakening University and that the senior students were about to graduate. Ching Xi continued connecting the dots. The university's annual graduation exam would take place exactly 1 month from now, and the prize for first place was precisely 1 million. Everything perfectly matched the amount and deadline Sichin had proposed. His gaze sharpened, a meaningful smile forming. Ching Xi had seen through the plan. He concluded with a direct question, asserting that Sichin was completely confident he would take first place in the exam. Sichin remained silent, offering no denial. Ching Xi continued his reasoning. Sichin could have waited 1 month to receive the prize money, yet he hurriedly used a rare item to secure a loan instead. This showed that he was in urgent need of money, and this was his last resort. Ching Xi's smile grew more satisfied as he grasped the crux of the matter. But instead of lowering the price, Ching Xi made an unexpected offer, an immediate loan of 1.5 million in cash, with no interest for the first month. He stood up, extended his hand, and declared that he wished to treat this as the beginning of a friendship between them, a highly calculated move to befriend a young talent. Sichin was slightly surprised by this generous proposal, but everything still seemed to be within his control. Ching Xi assured him that everything would remain confidential and expressed his desire to become Sichin's preferred partner in the future. He promised to always bring him the best deals. Sichin inwardly admired him. With just a few details, Ching Xi had deduced his situation and needs. Not only did he refrain from exploiting him, he even offered better terms to build a partnership. Truly the man who would one day turn Mithril Exchange into the world's leading trading platform. Sichin realized that to eliminate his future enemies, he could not rely on his own strength alone. A handshake, an alliance was formed. That was why he needed to begin building reliable alliances, and Ching Xi was the first. The agreement was sealed with a magical contract, golden light flashing from the parchment scroll as Sichin placed his hand upon it. Ching Xi happily announced that the contract was complete, and immediately, Sichin's phone chimed with a notification. 1.5 million had been transferred into his account. Seeing that Sichin had pawned his weapon, Ching Xi showed concern and asked what he would use for the graduation exam, offering to lend him some equipment. He boasted that although they had no other S-rank equipment, their vault still held plenty of A and B rank items. Sichin coldly refused, saying, "No need." A flash of magical light glimmered in his hand. Immediately after, a great sword identical to the one he had just pawned appeared. Sichin calmly stated that he still had another weapon. Both Ching Xi and the assistant were stunned, their eyes nearly popped out from sheer shock. 2 S-rank weapons? This was simply unbelievable. After completing the transaction, Sichin left coldly. While Ching Xi and the assistant saw him off with respect, Ching Xi muttered that there had been too many talented youths lately. Ching Xi turned and announced Miss Li's promotion for assisting an important client like Sichin. She jumped with joy. Leaving the exchange, Sichin suddenly remembered something. He murmured, "I need to buy a few things." With that, Sichin quickly hailed a taxi and departed. Before long, he arrived at the Tsengchang County long-distance bus station. Standing before the station, memories from his previous life surged back. Sichin recalled the time when his family struggled with financial hardship. Back then, he had just graduated but had not awakened, and no guild would accept him. He had to scramble for all kinds of work, from deliveries to manual labor, just to earn enough for rent. In their shabby rented room, the two siblings had to live frugally. He remembered the despair of having no money left after paying rent, while his younger sister tried to comfort him, saying she had just found a tutoring job. That was also when his sister, Siyun, received her admission letter from the International Central Academy of Arts. But then, he saw his sister quietly tear the admission letter into pieces in her hands. She gave up her dream school. She lied that it was too far away and that she wanted to stay near her brother. But Sichin knew she did it because she did not want to add to the family's financial burden. Returning to the present, Sichin looked around, somewhat anxious. It was already quite late. His sister should have gotten off the bus by now. Suddenly, a familiar voice called out, "Brother." The voice teased him, reminding him how many times she had told him to wait at the exit gate, not the entrance. Then Siyun appeared, wearing her school uniform, pulling a yellow suitcase. She was still complaining about rent. Sichin was stunned. 7 years. For him, it had been 7 long years since the last time he saw his sister alive. Siyun had not noticed anything unusual about her brother, and called him over to help carry her luggage. Seeing him standing there blankly, Siyun looked puzzled and asked why he was standing there like a statue. Without a word, Sichin rushed forward and tightly embraced his sister, a tight hug, compensating for all the pain and separation of 7 years in his previous life. Siyun was completely taken aback by the sudden hug. In Sichin's mind, 7 years had already passed. He smiled, feeling the familiar warmth he thought he would never have again. "It's been 7 years since I last saw you, Yunny." Sichin's hug was too tight, leaving Siyun somewhat flustered and short of breath. Annoyed, she tried to push him away while shouting, "Are you trying to squeeze me to death?" After breaking free, Siyun complained that he had been acting strange lately, even teasing whether he had just been rejected by a girl. Sichin only gave an awkward smile, picked up the backpack, and urged her to hurry home. On the way back, the siblings chatted as they walked. Siyun chattered about her trip. Listening to his sister's voice, Sichin silently looked at her and made a vow in his heart. "This time, I will not let you suffer anymore." The promise echoed alongside the image of Siyun's radiant smile. But they did not know that in a nearby alley, a group of delinquents was gathering. They had identified this as Sichin's route home. The leader, a man wearing a gaudy floral shirt, ordered his lackeys to hide and wait for the right moment to teach Sichin a lesson. He laughed sinisterly, took a long drag from his cigarette, and declared that he would make Sichin understand the consequences of daring to offend him. One of the lackeys looked worried, reminding him that there were many student council members around, asking if they were going too far. The leader dismissed it. At first, he had only intended to teach Sichin a lesson, but his attitude had infuriated him. He contemptuously called Sichin E-rank trash for daring to act arrogant toward a C-rank like himself. He recalled Sichin's cold warning. "You people are too noisy, never bother me again." The leader roared, ordering his lackeys to leave a share for him, as he would personally ruin Sichin and prevent him from participating in the graduation exam for the next 2 weeks. He drew a dagger, blue energy enveloping it. He arrogantly declared himself one of the school's best cloud-type assassins. He was Chong D, a D-rank cloud assassin. Meanwhile, on the way home, Siyun sipped her milk tea and remarked that her brother had been acting strange lately. She asked if he was nervous about the graduation exam. She continued teasing, saying that someone as simple-minded as him was usually not swayed by emotions like that. Siyun grew more serious and repeated what he had once taught her. "Life is a long journey, and opportunities will come sooner or later." She encouraged him to pull himself together. As she spoke, she hummed a song. "Believe in yourself," and the siblings continued walking toward the alley. Sichin smiled. He knew his sister was perceptive. She had sensed the difference in him from the moment they met. But since she did not know he had awakened, she still believed the family was struggling financially. He reassured her that he was fine, but Siyun thought he was trying to hide it out of male pride. She muttered, recalling a line from a book. "Men start building emotional walls as they grow older." She concluded that her brother was getting old. As the siblings stepped into the deserted alley, a shadowy figure watched them from the darkness. A lackey turned back to report to Chong D that the target was walking with a girl. Chong D laughed gleefully. "Perfect, this alley has no cameras, what a lucky day for us." However, Sichin had already sensed the killing intent. His eyes sharpened. "That scent, it's the student council thugs." He glanced toward the end of the alley, where the gang was blocking the path. "They truly have some nerve." Sichin muttered, showing no fear. Calmly, he took out a pair of earphones and gently placed one in his sister's ear. He did not want her to hear the sounds that were about to come. Sichin told Siyun that he had recently grown fond of this song and wanted her to listen to it. Siyun was surprised, asking since when her brother had started listening to music. She smiled, saying that music could reflect a person's mood. She closed her eyes and began enjoying the melody. Siyun decided to listen carefully to better understand her brother. Meanwhile, Sichin turned around, his eyes flashing with killing intent. He set down his backpack, ready to fight. The student council delinquents charged forward aggressively. Although Chong D was D-rank, his lackeys were merely ordinary E-rankers. While Siyun was immersed in the melody of the song. Behind her, Sichin had already begun his purge. The thugs rushed in, unaware that they were facing a true monster. Sichin's fury erupted. He remembered the year 2160 in his previous life. When he lost his last family member, it was not until 2167 that he was reborn and reunited with his sister. "This is the first time in 7 years that I have been reunited with my family." His entire body was wrapped in golden lightning, power surging. "How dare you ruin this moment!" He dashed forward like a bolt of lightning, carrying the rage accumulated over 7 years. A thunderous kick slammed directly into a thug's face. Blood splattered everywhere. The man's body was sent flying like a kicked ball, while the others had not even understood what had happened. While Siyun continued drifting along with the music, Sichin unleashed more brutal attacks. A powerful spinning punch. Another thug let out a shrill scream before being knocked down. Bam bam bam. A barrage of punches and kicks rained down mercilessly, each strike accompanied by the sound of bones breaking. He leapt into the air and delivered a sweeping kick, knocking down multiple thugs at once. Their sticks shattered to pieces. All of it happened while the lyrics continued to play. A dazzling star streaks across the galaxy. A thug swung his arm to attack. Sichin did not dodge but reached out and easily grabbed his arm. Crack! The man's arm was broken instantly. He screamed in agony, tears streaming down. "Ah, my arm!" Sichin did not stop and delivered a devastating uppercut straight to his face, sending him flying away. The leader stared in horror. What the hell is this? How can he be this strong? Sichin's power seemed limitless as he tensed his body, brilliant golden energy surging forth. Without a trace of hesitation, he charged back into the encirclement, delivering crushing blows. Each punch knocked down another man, leaving them unable to fight. Soon, only Chong D remained. He stood there trembling as he watched his lackeys fall in the blink of an eye. He tried to steady himself, gritting his teeth as he shouted, "I am the strongest cloud assassin." Chong D roared in desperation and fury. "Do you think I cannot defeat you?" But Sichin struck first. He appeared in front of him instantly, a lightning-fast punch slamming into Chong D's face. The dagger flew from his hand. The powerful blows sent Chong D flying backward. He gave him no chance to retaliate. Another kick landed squarely on his body. The relentless assault left Chong D unable to resist, his face contorted in agony. Sichin delivered a devastating uppercut to Chong D's jaw, ending the fight brutally. Boom! Chong D's body crashed to the ground like a sandbag, creating a crater in the concrete. He was completely unconscious. In the darkness of the alley, only Sichin's crimson eyes remained, staring down at the defeated opponent. Sichin picked up Chong D's dagger, his voice icy cold. "I already told you clearly, never bother me again." His red eyes gleamed with killing intent. "Which part of that sentence did you not understand?" Chong D lay sprawled on the ground, his entire body racked with pain. He realized that Sichin's ranking assessment was real. He was not D rank, and in his panic, he could only stammer out apologies. But Sichin coldly brushed it aside. The serrated dagger pressed against Chong D's face, growling a threat to kill him if he made even the slightest sound. Sichin's eyes did not lie. Extreme terror engulfed Chong D. He believed that if he resisted any further, the boy would truly strike him down. Chong D could not understand it. He was clearly just a student, yet the killing intent radiating from him was so horrifying. Just what had he gone through? Sichin began laying down his conditions, ordering the delinquents to remember every single word he was about to say. He did not care whether they lived or died, but they were absolutely forbidden from bothering him again, and more importantly, if they dared to touch his sister, even merely appearing in front of her. The blade carved a line across Chong D's cheek, then one by one. Sichin growled, his crimson eyes blazing with killing intent. "I will make all of you disappear forever, understood?" Faced with the deathly threat, Chong D could only nod frantically in fear. After delivering his warning, Sichin turned and left coldly, leaving behind a battered and shattered Chong D slumped against the wall. The scene shifted to Siyun, Sichin's younger sister. She was listening to a sorrowful song, feeling an inexplicable loneliness in her heart. Tears suddenly streamed down her cheeks. Siyun did not understand why this melody made her want to cry so badly. She thought about her brother. They had only been apart for a few days, yet it felt as though he had gone through so much. She wondered why he seemed so lonely, when she had always been by his side. Lost in her wandering thoughts, Siyun broke down and called out to her brother, feeling that his joke had gone too far this time. But it was not a joke. Sichin suddenly appeared in front of his sister, holding a small gift box in his hand. He smiled gently and said this was a gift for her. Inside was a shimmering golden pen. Siyun was stunned to recognize it as a magic holographic pen, the newest version from Drag Company. She exclaimed that the item was worth over 10,000 yuan and asked where he had gotten the money. Sichin merely smiled without answering. While Siyun was still worrying about the price, Sichin sank into his own thoughts. He recalled his previous life, when he had failed to protect her, failed to protect even her dreams. But in this life, the blood-stained hand clenched tightly behind his back. He silently vowed to protect everything that belonged to her. At the same time, in the alley, the delinquents could only groan as they called for an ambulance. A few days later, Siyun tried out the new pen. A stream of magical light shot out from its tip. The pen could draw holographic images in midair. Siyun cheered in delight, unable to believe it truly worked. Watching his sister's happiness, Sichin contentedly enjoyed the bowl of egg noodles she had cooked. Praising how delicious it was, he said that as long as she liked the gift, that was all that mattered. However, Siyun still could not feel at ease. She worriedly reminded her brother that they still had rent to pay, and spending such a large sum was far too risky. Sichin casually replied that he had already paid the rent for the entire year, leaving Si-yun utterly shocked. To reassure her, he fabricated a story about recently starting a small business with a friend and earning a bit of money. Si-yun narrowed her eyes. She knew perfectly well how bad her brother was at lying. He was clearly hiding something. But then, she paused. How long had it been since she had last seen such a carefree and happy smile on her brother's face? So she decided not to press further, merely placing a gentle hand on his shoulder and telling him not to overexert himself. Sichin smiled and softly replied, cherishing his sister's concern. Meanwhile, elsewhere, a report was being delivered. Chong D had suffered severe injuries, with more than 60% of his body bones fractured. The reporter stated that in such condition, even top doctors would be unable to fully heal him within a month. Gong Ting, the president of the student council, merely remarked coldly that he had not expected Chong D to provoke Sichin and end up beaten to this extent. A woman seated in the shadows spoke up, saying it seemed Chong D would have to miss the graduation exam. Gong Ting did not care in the slightest. He casually declared that his team would be better off without useless people. At that moment, an older man stepped in. It was Gong Xian, Director of Employment Services at National Awakening University. He slowly spoke, repeating the name Sichin. Gong Xian revealed shocking information. He had confirmed the internal results of the final ranking assessment. Sichin was truly C-rank. Moreover, he was the only student in the entire school ranked higher than Gong Ting. This information left Gong Ting stunned. Gong Xian continued, reminding his nephew that his father had invited the vice president of the alliance to personally oversee his performance in the exam. He warned Gong Ting not to let anyone else steal the spotlight, and if any unexpected incident occurred. Gong Xian glanced toward the woman. He had a contingency plan, instructing his granddaughter to fill the vacancy Chong D had left in Gong Ting's team. Gong Ting spoke up, reassuring his uncle that he was overthinking. He arrogantly countered, asking whether his uncle truly believed he had used his full strength in the ranking assessment. Gong Ting declared, "Rest assured, on the day of the competition, I will let everyone know who the strongest truly is." His face was filled with confidence and arrogance. Like a shark that had already swallowed its prey whole, the scheme had long been set in motion, awaiting execution. The scene shifted back to the university male dormitory at 11 p.m. Sichin had just completed a 100 kilometers weighted run. Standing under the shower, he thought to himself that now the financial issue was resolved. Everything else was moving in the right direction. He could begin his true plan after graduation. The next step was to win the 1 million yuan prize in the graduation exam to repay the debt he owed Ching Xi. He had to keep his promise to Ching Xi, because in the future, he would need his help many times. Lying on his bed, Sichin calculated silently. There was less than a month left until the exam. He needed to level up a few more times. With that thought, he closed his eyes. The system began initializing. Immediately, the Glutton system was activated. A massive, ominous tower manifested before Sichin's eyes. He stepped onto the stairs leading up to the tower, the surroundings drenched in a deadly crimson hue. Sichin began analyzing his own strength. The recent evaluation showed that his weakest class, Gravehound King, had reached mid-C rank. However, the official rank of his strongest class, Abyssal Fiend, could not be displayed. The system reported an error exceeding measurement limits. Although Abyssal Fiend was ranked S, Sichin knew he could not yet unleash its full potential. He was unsure how much power it still concealed. Furthermore, the ranks of his other two classes remained complete unknowns. To test his limits, Sichin took out an item. A radiant golden key slowly materialized. It was the SSS rank Time Rift key, the only key capable of opening the gate to the Tower of Darkness. The key pierced into the air, and a massive gate began trembling as it slowly opened. Sichin stood before the swirling spatial gate. He was determined to test it today, wondering what scene awaited him inside the Tower of Darkness. Without hesitation, he leapt straight into the vortex of purple energy. After a brief moment of disorientation, Sichin opened his eyes, astonished by the unfamiliar landscape. He had been transported to Fallen Star Wastes, a desert on a distant planet, beneath a sky filled with stars and brilliant galaxies. Suddenly he sensed something was wrong. A terrifying pressure weighed down on his body, forcing Sichin to collapse to the ground. Gritting his teeth, he realized the gravity here was insanely strong, roughly 10 times normal. Sichin realized the gate he had just passed through had vanished. It seemed he had to defeat the boss of this floor to reopen it. In this environment, he could only exert 30% of his maximum strength. He needed to adapt as quickly as possible. As Sichin struggled to stand, a colossal shadow slowly approached. A B-rank phantom lion, star warrior, appeared, its glowing eyes filled with menace as it prepared to attack. Facing such a powerful enemy, Sichin panted. He knew he could not fight with his current class. The system began the class switching process, preparing for a life-or-death battle. The system announced the class switch complete. Sichin was now a level 10 lightning assassin. A blade of lightning flickered in his hand as he stared directly at the monster, and declared it the enemy of this floor. The phantom lion roared and charged forward. Sichin did not falter. He sidestepped the attack, his lightning dagger aiming straight for the beast's throat. Though his body felt unbearably heavy, he knew he had to end this fight quickly. But the attack failed. It did not hit a critical point, and the paralysis effect was not triggered. Sichin froze. A miss? He immediately understood the issue. The excessive gravity had severely affected his speed and accuracy, stripping the assassin class of its advantage. Meanwhile, the phantom lion moved with ease, as though the environment did not affect it at all. Sichin wondered if this was the level of power of monsters inside this magical tower. Immediately afterward, he was sent flying by a counterattack. Realizing the disadvantage, Sichin decided to change tactics. The system announced the class switch complete. He roared and shifted into Purgatory Rakshasa. This was a Star Warrior-type class, boasting superior strength and endurance stats, along with the special skill Triphase Gravity Calamity, which manipulated gravity to attack. Sichin realized that different classes had fundamentally different strengths, and to fight in close combat within this environment, he had to rely on the warrior class with high strength and endurance bonuses. He charged forward, confronting the monster head-on. Sichin gathered all his power, activating the gravity stacking skill to its maximum. A devastating punch came crashing down onto the phantom lion's head. The impact force increased to its limit, amplifying to 200%, 400%, then 600%. In an environment already burdened with high gravity, the power of his punch was magnified 60-fold. The phantom lion let out one final roar. Its entire body was crushed under the horrifying gravitational pressure. Sichin roared. "Do not even think about blocking my path." He activated Triphase Gravity Calamity, Super Heavy Mode, unleashing all his energy, and creating an explosion that pulverized everything around him. After the attack, Sichin collapsed to the ground in exhaustion, gasping for breath. The phantom lion had been completely annihilated, leaving behind a deep crater and an item, phantom lion bone. The system notified him that he had gained 12,000 experience points and leveled up to 11. Despite his exhaustion, Sichin's eyes remained sharp. He began analyzing. Each star on a class card represented a multiplier for its stats. The more stars, the higher the amplified power after switching classes. Purgatory Rakshasa had 11 stars, while Lightning Assassin had only 9. Therefore, Rakshasa's overall amplification factor was higher, and its rank must also surpass Lightning Assassin. Yet to deal with a mere B-rank monster, he had already exhausted his full strength. This indicated that both of his current classes still seemed unable to break through the limits of B-rank. And as he contemplated the limits of his power, an unusual detail from the recent battle suddenly made Sichin pause. He suddenly realized something strange. Why had the system not displayed the devourable indicator after killing the monster? He looked around the vast desert, and the gate leading to the next floor had not appeared either. A bad premonition rose within him. Could it be? Suddenly, a crack appeared in the sky. It tore through space, forming a massive black hole. Within the darkness, countless glowing eyes stared at him. Sichin's expression changed. Could it be? The true ruler of this floor has not yet appeared? Dozens of phantom lions surged out from the gate. Sichin realized in horror that the monster he had just exhausted himself to defeat had only been a mere minion. The lion pack lunged forward, tearing and biting. His body was ripped apart, and only in that instant did Sichin understand the true meaning of Purgatory Rakshasa's words. When the gate opens, what greets you will be endless pain. But you must endure it all. His face covered in blood, yet in Sichin's eyes burned extreme determination. You must conquer everything. Sichin jolted awake, sitting upright in bed. He gasped for breath, while his roommate remained fast asleep, unaware of anything that had happened. He clutched his throat, sweat pouring down his body, the sensation of muscles being torn, flesh separating from bone. The pain from that dream, all of it was incomparably real. To become stronger, there are no shortcuts. This lonely and arduous path of purgatory has only just begun. May 20th, 2157, at National Awakening University, the atmosphere inside the Grand Lecture Hall was extremely tense. The team formation ceremony for the graduation combat assessment was about to begin. At the main table, Director Gong Xian leisurely took a sip of water, his expression profound, with an elderly professor seated beside him. All eyes were fixed on them, waiting for an important announcement. Below, the students began whispering among themselves. A rumor quickly spread throughout the hall. This year's assessment would be observed in person by senior leaders from the Guild Alliance. This news caused an uproar, and everyone believed this was the reason the rules of this year's assessment had suddenly changed. Amid the noisy crowd, Sichin remained seated in silence, his eyes half closed, seemingly unconcerned. In previous years, team formation had no requirements regarding numbers or rank, but this time, each team was required to have exactly 5 members, and at least one person had to reach high E rank or above. The other students continued speculating, assuming the change was meant to increase the entertainment value of the assessment, but no one knew the true scheme behind it. On the stage, Gong Xian cleared his throat, drawing the attention of the entire hall. His expression was authoritative as he prepared to announce the most important information. Gong Xian declared that the rank information of all students had already been sent to each person's wristband. He instructed everyone to check it immediately and complete team formation as soon as possible. Instantly, rows of holographic screens projected from the wristbands lit up simultaneously. The students hurried to check their own information and that of those around them. A long list appeared, clearly displaying each person's name, rank, and status. Suddenly, a bespectacled male student exclaimed in shock, having discovered something wrong. His eyes were fixed on a name at the bottom of the list. He turned to Sichin, almost shouting, unable to believe what he was seeing. He demanded to know how Sichin could possibly be only low E rank. Sichin's group of friends were all stunned. His words triggered a wave of discussion. Others began to question it as well. They clearly remembered that in the previous test, Sichin had demonstrated C rank strength. So how had he suddenly fallen to low E rank? The doubt quickly turned into disappointment. One student sighed, saying he had originally planned to cooperate with Sichin if he failed to join President Gong Ting's team. But he never expected Sichin to be nothing more than a lowly E rank. Wonderful, now surely no one would want to form a team with him anymore. In stark contrast to the surrounding chaos, Sichin remained completely calm. Mocking whispers echoed everywhere. People began ridiculing Sichin, saying he must regret to death having rejected Gong Ting's invitation back then. To them, Sichin was now nothing but a burden. In another row, the student council president merely cast a silent glance at Sichin, a trace of contemplation in his eyes. His gaze shifted toward the stage, where his uncle Gong Xian was seated. Gong Xian curled his lips into a faint smile. He silently thought about his disappointing nephew, who still had not learned how to truly exploit power and human nature. Gong Xian's smile grew even more sinister. He had decided to teach his nephew a lesson. With his arrangements, Gong Ting's opponent would not even have the qualifications to compete. The graduation exam hall descended into chaos as the loudspeaker announcement urging students to quickly form teams echoed through the air. Hurried footsteps created an atmosphere of extreme tension. Gong Ting, the number 1 genius of the academy, was surrounded by a dense crowd. Everyone shouted and pleaded to be chosen into his team for a guaranteed safe pass. The noise did not cease as students competed to boast about their achievements. Some were even willing to act as errand runners, as long as they could stand within the ranks of this president. One member of Gong Ting's group had to shout loudly to maintain order. Their team was nearly complete, and only one final spot remained for the luckiest person. Half an hour passed, and most students had completed the procedures. Their wristbands glowed, signaling that alliances had been established. Cheers filled the hall from newly formed teams. However, in a corner of the hall, Sichin's group of friends still stood alone like outsiders. Malong sighed in frustration as no one paid them any attention. Despite asking around everywhere, the reputation of being trash made everyone avoid their group like the plague. At present, the team had only 4 members, one short of the required number. If they failed to complete the lineup, Sichin's group would lose their right to participate in the graduation exam altogether. Malong frowned at the ranking board, unable to understand why Sichin was at the very bottom. Clearly, something shady was happening within this academy. The new rule required each team to have one high-tier rank member. Sichin immediately realized this was a fatal blow aimed directly at their dorm room. The exam was the only opportunity for students to change their fate and seek a future, Sichin silently observed, a calculating coldness flashing in his eyes. The number of monsters would increase according to the number of team members, therefore, having more people did not necessarily guarantee a higher score. Even so, a low rank like Sichin's group was still regarded as a burden. No one was foolish enough to associate with people who had abysmal ability stats. The list displayed the 3 lowest ranked names in the school, and coincidentally, Malong, Lan Yue, and Sichin were all roommates. This situation was truly disastrous. Suddenly, another team approached and called out Xiangzuo's name. It seemed they were attempting to recruit a member to complete their lineup at this very moment. That person mocked the trio of E-ranks as trash and tried to lure Xiangzuo away from the group. He threatened that if Xiangzuo refused to join, he would lose the right to participate in the exam. Sichin silently observed, his eyes clearly revealing cold indifference. He knew well that this society despised the weak and worshipped only strength. The image of failure and elimination from the exam surfaced vividly. Those of low rank were often cast out of the cycle of glory in an extremely ruthless manner. Xiangzuo remained silent for a long time before suddenly apologizing. The atmosphere instantly grew suffocating, leaving his friends deeply disappointed. But it turned out that the apology was directed at the other team. As Xiangzuo decided not to abandon his teammates, he declared that he would stand by his friends until the very end. The other team angrily cursed Xiangzuo as ungrateful and foolish. They left in contempt, not forgetting to hurl insults at Sichin's trash group. On the electronic board, D-rank teams continued confirming successfully. The registration time ticked down to the final seconds, pushing the tension in the hall to its peak. Malong frantically checked the list as only a few high-tier E-ranks remained without teams. However, everyone ignored his desperate invitations. Amid the chaotic crowd, Sichin looked toward a certain direction, as if contemplating something. It turned out the mastermind was old Gong Xian, the service director with C-rank strength. Sharing the same surname, there was surely a shady connection between him and Gong Ting. Sichin silently cursed old Gong Xian. The man had abused his authority to change the graduation exam rules and even altered the rank to isolate him. Truly typical of those who relied on power and wealth. But they would not stop Sichin. The class change system began activating. Since the enemy had openly targeted him, there was no reason to hold back any courtesy. The job change process completed, Sichin stepped forward with thunder encircling him in overwhelming dominance. From now on, he would not show any politeness to those who sought to harm him. Seeing that terrifying surge of power, Director Gong Xian and the old professor froze for 5 seconds. The director's plan to suppress the trash had encountered an unexpected twist from the very start. The entire hall erupted, everyone staring in shock with mouths agape. Malong was completely stunned, unable to comprehend where his roommate had obtained such overwhelming lightning power. According to academy tradition, students had the right to issue a 1v1 challenge at any time. Sichin intended to seize this opportunity to slap the faces of all those who looked down on him. This move was extremely bold but the fastest way to assert his strength. Sichin's eyes burned brightly, ready to challenge every rotten rule here. Gong Ting maintained a cold expression, but his lackeys around him had already begun trembling. No one expected an E-rank to radiate such godlike pressure. Gong Ting slightly curled his lips, a competitive gleam flashing in his eyes. Sichin calculated silently. As long as he defeated Gong Ting, strong teammates would naturally come seeking him. He had no need to lower himself to beg anyone. At that moment, a beautiful figure suddenly appeared at the entrance of the hall. She spoke up, asking whether Sichin's team still had space for a new member. The entire hall fell silent at that proposal. Sichin turned around, curiosity evident in his eyes toward the mysterious girl who wished to join his team. It was Ling Yu, possessing breathtaking beauty that left everyone stunned. She confidently declared that she had achieved D rank back in high school. Malong and the male students were overjoyed, eyes wide in disbelief. No one expected Sichin to know such a powerful and stunning woman like Ling Yu. Gong Ting's faction was visibly furious, unable to believe that a genius like Ling Yu would choose the trash side. His subordinates shouted in shock at this massive twist. Old Gong Xian was so shocked he spat out all the water in his mouth. He could not believe his perfect plan had been ruined by such a stunning variable. The sound of high heels echoed proudly as Ling Yu walked towards Sichin. Her elegant demeanor drew every gaze in the hall. Students whispered about Ling Yu's mysterious background. Rumor had it she was a genius from Ching Xi, studying here as an international exchange student. Gong Xian hurriedly tried to stop her, insisting that exchange students like Ling Yu had no right to participate in this graduation exam. Truly a scheming old fox. He cited various rules to make things difficult, claiming she lacked a rank evaluation report from this school. Gong Xian was determined to use regulations to kick Ling Yu out. At the most intense moment, the principal suddenly appeared with overwhelming purple pressure. Malong cried out in shock, not knowing when such a powerful figure had arrived. Seeing the big boss, Gong Xian broke into cold sweat, his face drained of blood. The principal's appearance signaled a dramatic reversal was about to unfold. The principal calmly stood beside Ling Yu, seeing through all of Gong Xian's schemes. Sichin was speechless at the principal's teleportation move. Clearly the old man was of the soldier system, yet this skill lay beyond his usual understanding. The principal smiled, saying the exam needed realism to be interesting, and Ling Yu quickly played along. But Sichin suddenly sensed the atmosphere shifting strangely. Cold sweat ran down Sichin's back as he realized a terrifying pressure was emanating from behind. Both the principal and Ling Yu radiated a mysterious aura, making it impossible for anyone to determine their true rank through ordinary appraisal systems. Seeing the boss intervene, Gong Xian immediately changed his attitude. He flattered and agreed with every word the principal said to preserve his position. The hall fell silent as they listened to the lecture about a noble mission. This place promised to create the fairest arena for true geniuses to shine. The graduation exam was a long-standing tradition, a turning point that could completely change each student's life. Everyone had to face the harsh reality of competition. The scar-faced principal asserted that the school's reputation would be ruined if talented students were eliminated from the exam for utterly absurd reasons. Old Gong Xian sweated profusely, unsure whether the boss was hinting at him. He trembled, as the principal rarely concerned himself with trivial matters. Gong Xian's sinister gaze shifted towards Sichin, suspecting he had some hidden connection with Ling Yu. He wondered if all of this was an elaborate act. Snorting disdainfully, the director decided not to argue further. He told himself that no matter what, he had no need to fear an old man nearing retirement. Gong Xian thought to himself that this was as far as he could help Gong Ting. In his view, Sichin teaming up with those three trash members was already a death sentence. In front of the big boss, the director bowed and admitted faults in organization. He feigned remorse for letting students fall into a situation without teams. He loudly declared the abolition of all previous restrictive rules. The gates of this life and death exam would remain wide open to all students of the school. A brilliant blue light flashed on the wristbands of the four members as the procedure was completed. A surprising alliance was officially established in this bustling hall. Sichin's roommates were overjoyed at finally qualifying to participate. They cheered and unanimously elected Sichin as the leader to guide the team. The principal calmly sat beside Ling Yu, remarking softly that the attention shown toward the young Sichin seemed far greater than he had imagined. The confrontation between Gong Ting with the strongest lineup in the school's history and Sichin's most underestimated group suddenly became hotter than ever in the hall. The academy's big boss smiled meaningfully at the list, wondering which dungeon the two teams would choose and how many points they would ultimately score. An announcement rang out, causing a stir in the hall. After forming teams successfully, the captain would have full freedom to choose the dungeon difficulty they desired most. The proctor's eyes widened upon seeing a registration submitted at lightning speed. He could not believe someone could decide on a dungeon so quickly. The hall erupted when the identity of the team was revealed. Shocked gazes turned towards Sichin, the bottom-rank youth who had just caused this upheaval. Students gaped in horror at the chosen difficulty displayed on the board. They cursed repeatedly, unable to believe the trash team dared to choose that dungeon. Malong and the roommates panicked, shouting for Sichin to cancel the decision immediately. They were standing on the brink of true despair. Facing his teammates' panic, Sichin remained cold, his eyes concealed unwavering determination. The graduation exam was the first time students could officially team up to clear a real dungeon. The entire team had to coordinate to kill monsters and defeat the boss for points, and everyone wanted the highest score possible. The scoring system was extremely strict, scrutinizing both monster elimination ratio and time. Any mistake meant immediate point deductions, so choosing the optimal dungeon was the key to maximizing scores. The system categorized dungeons by rank, representing difficulty and corresponding score multipliers. The higher the dungeon rank, the greater the potential to achieve a record-breaking score. Choosing a rank F dungeon would yield at most 75 points, while rank E could reach a perfect 100 points if time and boss elimination criteria were met. The reward for the highest scoring team was an invitation to join the prestigious Imperial Guild. This was the life-changing opportunity every student had long dreamed of. In particular, the individual who achieved MVP would be directly appointed to a managerial position in Imperial Guild with a bonus of 1 million, an enormous and tempting sum. The highest record in exam history was 90 points, set by the current leader of Imperial Guild. Malong and the other students felt immense pressure weighing on them. All expectant eyes turned toward Gong Ting. Many believed he had every capability to break the unprecedented record with his elite lineup. A dry bell rang, signaling that a team had quickly finalized their dungeon. One candidate stood stunned at the lightning-fast decision speed. Shock was evident on his face when he realized the registered team was Sichin's group. The real shock exploded when the electronic board displayed Sichin's choice. He did not choose rank F or E, but boldly challenged a dangerous rank D dungeon. Sichin's cold gaze fixed on the confirmation screen. Rank D dungeon, a level no student had ever dared approach in this graduation exam. The hall erupted, everyone assuming Sichin had pressed the wrong button. Sweat poured down as they could not believe such a crazy decision. Malong shouted at Sichin, questioning whether he was still sane. Choosing rank D was equivalent to seeking death for this trash team. Xiangzhua collapsed to the floor, crying miserably for having no way out now. He could not understand why he was unlucky enough to team up with someone as insane as Sichin. The screen displayed a notification requiring members to confirm joining rank D dungeon. The thin boundary between supreme glory and destruction was slowly unfolding. Malong continued persuading Sichin to reconsider carefully. To him, rank D was a concept far beyond the reach of ordinary students like them. Sichin affirmed that he had calculated everything thoroughly before making this decision. Another bell rang. Immediately after Sichin, a formidable lineup officially confirmed their dungeon choice on the school's shared registration system. As expected, Gong Ting also selected rank D dungeon to demonstrate superior strength. He wore a self-assured smile, ready to enter the grand stage. The hall once again exploded with excited cheers. This year's exam was truly explosive, with two teams daring to challenge rank D dungeon. Gong Ting maintained a calm and arrogant expression. He viewed this exam as a stage to showcase his absolute power. A member of Gong Ting's team curled her lips in contempt as she glanced at Sichin's group. She believed they were merely showing off to attract the boss's attention. She mocked that no matter how high a rank they chose, the final result would still be last place. To her, this was nothing more than a farce. Arrogant laughter echoed from Gong Ting's team. They were certain that Sichin's alliance would collapse as soon as they stepped into rank D dungeon. Malong silently looked at Sichin, his anxiety gone, replaced by a strange feeling. He realized his friend looked completely different, radiating overwhelming presence. Seeing Sichin so resolute, he froze. He wondered whether he had ever truly understood this young man all these years. Malong stared intently, the eyes behind his thick glasses struggling fiercely over Sichin's risky decision. He knew this was the gamble of their lives. Finally, Malong pressed the confirmation button on his wrist device. He declared that they had walked together for 4 years and would stand beside Sichin until the very end. Next was Ling Yu, who calmly accepted the Rank D dungeon challenge. He thought that since they were already at the bottom, whether Rank D or Rank F made little difference. The atmosphere grew extremely tense as only one final member had yet to confirm. Ling Yue gritted his teeth, sweat streaming down his anxious face before this massive variable. Ling Yue shouted indignantly at being forced into this situation. He had always considered himself the strongest in the dormitory, yet now he was the last to confirm participation. Despite grumbling, Ling Yue still swung his hand to confirm participation with the do-or-die spirit. He decided to go all in before officially graduating. The system's cold announcement echoed throughout the hall. Sichin's team had officially registered successfully for Rank D dungeon after all members accepted. The team stood silently for a moment amid the murmurs. Astonished gazes from all directions focused on the trash group that had just committed the craziest act in academy history. Sichin remained solemn, his red eyes revealing rare seriousness. He apologized for forcing his teammates into such peril solely to pursue the MVP title. He admitted he had been somewhat selfish in dragging everyone into danger, but to Sichin, this was their only chance to truly change their fate. Sichin smiled confidently, his eyes radiating proud defiance toward reality. He called on his teammates to aim for the highest score in this graduation exam. Suddenly from above the stands, a tall shadow emitted chilling killing intent. Gong Ting's deep voice echoed, declaring that the supreme MVP title belonged only to him. Sichin glanced back slightly, sensing immense pressure bearing down. Malong beside him broke into cold sweat upon recognizing the challenger's voice. Gong Ting's eyes burned with golden ambition and arrogance. He bluntly declared to Sichin that the entire academy could have only one strongest individual. Ling Yu, the beautiful exchange student with a mysterious mole beneath her eye, smiled faintly. Her appearance instantly stirred up the atmosphere inside the registration hall. The covert rivalry between the two geniuses had now officially been laid bare before everyone. All eyes were fixed on them, anticipating an explosive showdown to come. The principal, with a long, authoritative scar across his face, curled his lips in satisfaction. He believed that the youth of today were truly astonishing and utterly fearless. Ling Yu observed thoughtfully, believing that Sichin was being overly arrogant by choosing dungeon rank D. In her view, even at rank C, soloing this challenge would still be impossible. Dungeon rank D carried a point multiplier of up to 3 times. It was an opportunity to reach the maximum score of 150. But it came with enormous risk. Its difficulty far exceeded that of the usual dungeon rank E that students tended to choose. With the team's current capability, this was clearly not a wise option. With only a little over a month left before the graduation exam began, time was running out. The principal sternly reminded everyone of the brutality of the impending battle drawing near. In the training room, students were frantically fighting virtual monsters to level up. They pushed themselves to the limit, knowing that skills could not be developed in a short time. The simulation chamber glowed brightly under neon lights late into the night as everyone continued their relentless training. All of them hoped that Sichin's team would deliver a performance worthy of attention. The countdown clock showed only 17 days remaining. Meanwhile, Sichin's group of friends were so exhausted that they were vomiting on the training ground due to the overwhelming intensity of the drills. The bespectacled youth Malong gasped for breath, wondering why they had to suffer like this. While others used simulation machines, they were forced to undergo raw physical training. Throwing balls, endurance runs, then sprint drills, each session left the entire group on the verge of collapse. They complained that this was a graduation exam, not a triathlon. Sichin looked at his teammates with a stern gaze, asserting that virtual training was now meaningless. He believed that no matter how much they trained in the simulation room, it was still fake. Once they stepped into an unfamiliar dungeon and faced ferocious monsters they had never seen before, fear would crash down like a tidal wave, wiping every bit of hollow theory from their minds. In that life-and-death moment, what determined fate would not be memorized techniques. It was survival instinct that served as the ultimate weapon to keep them alive. Sichin forced the group to build endurance and reflexes to enhance their combat instincts. Though utterly drained, his friends still gritted their teeth and followed the training regimen. He believed that the benefits of the school's simulations were extremely limited. the only way to truly grow stronger was to venture into real dungeons and gain genuine experience. But the harsh reality was that ordinary people like them had no access to dungeons. That privilege had always belonged to those with status and wealth from the very beginning. Gong Ting swung his sword and cleaved a monster in half inside his private training room, displaying completely overwhelming strength. The slash carried a surge of radiant force, affirming his status as the number one genius. People of the upper class like him would stop at nothing to widen the gap. They used every means to consolidate their power and preserve their dominance forever. Gong Ting's eyes radiated the arrogance of someone who always stood at the peak. He looked upon the world with absolute confidence, scorning those struggling to climb upward. Those were things that ordinary people would find nearly impossible to touch even in a lifetime. Sichin's friends anxiously wondered what nameless nobodies like them could possibly achieve. Faced with such an enormous disparity in starting points, they felt their future was bleak. Sichin decisively set his goal on advancing straight into the Imperial Guild. He wanted to shatter the absurd class barriers blocking their path, without sparing any respect for those arrogant geniuses. Malong and the entire team were instantly fired up after hearing this. They all understood that only by passing this exam could they stand at the same table as those geniuses. This was also the best opportunity for Sichin to surpass them all. Staring at the phantom demon kings before him, he knew the road ahead was fraught with danger. With fiery determination blazing in his eyes, Sichin vowed to give his all and not disappoint everyone's expectations. Without a doubt, they would be the final victors. Only 15 days remained until the graduation exam. Sichin began a series of grueling training sessions in Tower of Darkness, facing ferocious Black Panthers to enhance his strength. He threw himself into the intense battle, ignoring the monsters bearing their fangs and claws. Every strike from Sichin carried lightning, clearly displaying the caliber of a lightning assassin. The monsters attacked relentlessly, yet Sichin remained calm in response. This young man's speed and reflexes had been tempered through thousands of battles. In the final 10 days, Sichin and his teammates plunged into insane physical training drills. While he was still full of energy, Malong and the others were practically on the verge of passing out from exhaustion. Flashing sword arcs tore through the air, finishing off the monsters in an instant. Sichin had no intention of stopping until he reached his desired level before the exam began. Meanwhile, Gong Ting was also training like crazy inside a dungeon. Time quickly passed to the mark of 5 days before the exam, and the team's training intensity kept increasing. The exam countdown reached 3 days. With only 2 days left, the young man's efforts were finally rewarded. Sichin officially leveled up to level 16 as a lightning assassin, ready for the crucial battle at the academy. Exactly 1 day before the decisive moment, Sichin's aura had completely changed. His eyes burned with determination, declaring that the real battle was only just beginning now. On June 17, 2157, the graduation combat exam officially commenced. A flying robot announced it would accompany the students, marking the start of a day full of upheaval and danger. The teams began preparing their equipment, rechecking their weapons and activation bracelets. Sichin's team, consisting of Malong and the Xiang brothers, was ready to deploy. Looking at their cool demeanor, no one would think they were once considered the Academy's useless group. The spatial gate blazed with light as the graduation exam officially began. The teams entered the dungeon one after another, carrying both hope and fear of the deadly trials awaiting them. Meanwhile, at the administrative building of National Awakener University, luxury cars arrived one after another. The presence of major powers made the atmosphere increasingly tense. The principal personally went out to welcome the distinguished guests with utmost respect. The meeting between the most powerful figures in the Awakener world highlighted the immense importance of the graduation exam. The elegant man was Gong Lin, founder of Imperial Guild and also Gong Ting's father. His appearance stirred heated discussions among the students in the distance. The students could barely sit still upon seeing the lineup of VIPs, some filled with admiration, others dreaming of becoming like them. Excited cheers echoed throughout the school corridors. But even more surprising was the luxurious limousine right behind. Both Gong Lin and the principal personally stepped forward to receive it, proving that the person inside held an extremely terrifying status. A handsome young man with purple hair stepped out of the car to everyone's astonishment. His refined aura and confidence instantly became the focal point of the opening ceremony. It turned out to be Carl Cavendish, vice president of the Global Guild Federation, a man who wielded the power over life and death. His presence suddenly made the exam extraordinarily significant. The students could only stand frozen, unable to believe their eyes at seeing living legends in person. Everyone trembled with excitement under the watchful gaze of the big boss. The Guild Federation was currently the most powerful organization in the world, and catching their attention was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change one's fate. Therefore, this exam was no longer just about graduation. The invited guests began settling into their seats to watch the live stream of the battle. The cameras were ready, just waiting for the competition to begin to capture every dramatic moment. This exam had 184 candidates divided into 28 teams. The competition would be extremely intense as each group began choosing different dungeon options to showcase themselves. Among the 28 participating teams, the majority chose the safe option of an F-rank dungeon. Only 2 teams, including Sichin's group, dared to risk entering the deathly D rank. Sigrid, Secretary General of the Global Guild Federation, appeared quite surprised by such recklessness. She could not believe there were rookies daring to challenge the limits during a graduation exam. She questioned how the school had educated students regarding the dangers of dungeons. Meanwhile, Carl Cavendish calmly ate French fries as if watching an entertaining show. The old director affirmed that everything had been clearly explained beforehand, but most students had only reached E rank. With that level of strength, facing monsters in an F-rank dungeon was the safest limit. Inside the F-rank dungeon, these rookies were doing their utmost to pass the exam. However, the real challenge lay in the dungeon's Lord Monster. The strength of this giant salamander far surpassed ordinary monsters, requiring students to unleash their full power. In stark contrast to the energetic atmosphere, the E-rank dungeon was shrouded in gloom. Seeing the trembling students amid dense spider webs, it seemed they had severely underestimated this place. The nightmare known as Stag Spider officially revealed itself. In the E-rank dungeon, the strength of each ordinary monster was equivalent to a boss lord in an F-rank dungeon. No joke at all. The bespectacled young man could not remain calm, breaking into tears at the harshness far beyond imagination. For most students, conquering an E-rank dungeon was truly an impossible mission. Seeing the dire situation, Sigrid worriedly asked about protective measures for the candidates. She did not want to see future talents perish wastefully in a graduation exam like this. The old director assured the Secretary General to rest easy. As students were the most valuable assets, he confidently stated that the school had prepared emergency measures to intervene promptly. Outside each dungeon, elite members of Imperial Guilds stood on standby. At the slightest sign of danger, they would immediately rush in to rescue the candidates. The bracelet monitoring system not only tracked vital signs but also served as the students' final lifeline. Unable to withstand the pressure, the bespectacled young man screamed to withdraw and activated his bracelet. The status dropped appeared, saving him from the monster's claws at the last second. A red light enveloped the cowards, instantly teleporting them out of the dungeon. Though they escaped death, their journey to becoming professional awakeners had officially ended. Sigrid remarked that despite the high risk, there were still 2 teams daring to choose the D-rank dungeon. She appeared excited and looked forward to the performance of these brave and promising students. The old director smirked with a calculating and cold expression. He maliciously wondered how many minutes these naive children could survive in the D-rank hell. The live-streamed footage showed the teams venturing deeper into the snow-covered region. Everyone assumed they would soon give up under the harsh weather and relentless monsters. Sichin's team officially set foot on Cloudwood Summit, a perilous D-rank dungeon. The moment they arrived, they sensed bloodthirsty gazes lurking from above. Wraithwing Monkey, the grotesque winged specter monkeys, officially appeared. At D rank, they possessed terrifying speed and killer instincts, ready to tear apart anyone. Sichin calmly assessed that they were spatial-type monsters with wide area attack capabilities. He immediately warned his teammates to remain highly vigilant against their diving assaults. From above, the Wraithwing monkeys began to act. They dove from the clouds at horrifying speed, creating immense pressure on the rookies. Surrounded by monsters, Sichin calmly shouted, "Here it comes." As soon as they entered, the group was ambushed by the monsters. The near-miss swipes made everyone's hearts feel like they would leap out from sheer terror. Malong narrowly dodged an attack by a hair's breadth. The gap between reality and theory made them unable to believe this was a safe graduation exam. Malong and the Xiang brothers collapsed onto the snow, faces drained of color. They had just dodged an attack from a D-rank monster, no joke at all. While his teammates were still in shock, Sichin acted. One wraithwing monkey instantly went down beneath his lightning-infused blade. Everything happened too fast. Sichin alone wiped out 3 D-rank monsters in the blink of an eye. This power had clearly surpassed rookie level. Sichin coldly told his teammates to focus on protecting themselves. He understood clearly that their strength was not yet sufficient to confront these monsters head-on. He charged straight into the swarm, declaring that he would handle the rest. Sichin's overwhelming aura made the entire space seem to freeze. One teammate was knocked into a tree trunk, writhing in pain yet realizing a bitter truth. He saw that he was still far too weak before the dungeon's true challenge. It turned out Sichin trained them not to fight together, but to make them fast enough not to die. This truth wounded their pride deeply. He clenched his teeth in anger. He had once been the dormitory's big brother, and now he had to rely entirely on someone else just to graduate. Sichin continued his domineering display, monkey heads falling amid flashes of gold and lightning. He fought like a machine programmed for battle. The wraithwing monkeys roared and charged frantically to avenge their comrades. They had no idea they were facing a level 16 lightning assassin of extreme danger. Golden lightning tore through the snowy veil, turning the monsters into heaps of flesh. Sichin showed no mercy. Each strike carried intense killing intent. He stared intently at Sichin's back, feeling shock mixed with shame. He had never seen anyone so absurdly strong. Sichin's eyes blazed as his aura radiated like a seasoned warrior of countless battles. Xiang Zhou realized the gap between them was immense. Numerous flashing sword arcs swept through the air, clearing the monkey swarm in an instant. The spectacle left everyone breathless in awe. Xiang Zhou truly felt he had been left far behind. His previous arrogance vanished, replaced by a fierce longing for strength. A monster suddenly launched a sneak attack from behind Xiang Zhou while he was off guard. The looming danger instantly made the air extremely tense. But this time, Xiang Zhou did not choose to stand still. He activated his power, flames igniting from his fist, ready to counterattack. The blazing punch exploded, blocking the wraithwing monkey's assault. Xiang Zhou had proven he was not a burden to the team. He declared that they could not just stand by while Sichin carried everything. He, along with Xiang Yu and Malong, resolved to rise and fight with their own strength. Malong and Xiang Yu looked towards Xiang Zhou, astonishment evident in their eyes after his declaration. Xiang Zhou roared loudly, determined to turn this exam into a stage for the entire team. Xiang Yu immediately made his move, a surge of green energy bursting from his hands. He activated the skill Flora chant, Vine Lock, creating thorny vines that encircled the enemy. He shouted for the monster to taste suffering. The vines tightly wrapped around the wraithwing monkey, attempting to restrain its agility. The monster roared violently, exerting tremendous pressure on the group. Xiang Zhou was flung far away. Xiang Yu's expression changed as he realized the D-rank monster was too powerful. It shattered the vine shackles in an instant. The disparity in strength became evident. Immediately, Malong coordinated with the skill Cloud Chant, Frost Breeze, generating a chilling gust to slow the ghost bat monkey's movements. His face filled with determination as he urged Xiang Yu to launch a full-force assault together. Seizing the opportunity, a powerful attack infused with radiant green energy was unleashed. The team's coordination was gradually reaching its optimal rhythm. Combo skill, Frost Breeze plus Vine Lock was officially activated, completely freezing and binding the monster. Xiang Yu signaled for the next attack. Xiang Zhou began to act, crimson flames blazing upon his hands. He unleashed the ultimate technique Nuclear Mage, Burst Flame Bullet, a massive fireball hurtling straight toward the immobilized monster. A shock explosion erupted, engulfing the wrathwing monkey in a sea of flames. The monster howled miserably within the encirclement of fire and ice. Xiang Zhou clenched his teeth in shock at the monster's absurdly tough defense. Despite taking the full brunt of the attack, it had not completely fallen, intensifying the battle further. Waves of scorching heat bombarded continuously as smoke and dust filled the battlefield. The group poured out everything to prevent the monster from counterattacking. Xiang Yu began to exhaust himself, sweat streaming down his tense face. He struggled to maintain his skill to support his teammates until his last breath. Malong had also reached his limit, his body trembling from mana depletion. This battle in the D-rank dungeon was far harsher than they had imagined. With no way back, Xiangzhu decided to go all in with his strongest attack, a colossal sphere of fiery energy accumulated, ready to incinerate everything. His eyes burned with killing intent as he shouted with unwavering resolve, this was not merely an exam, but a battle for the team's honor. Nuclear Mage Converged Burst Flame Bullet was unleashed, creating a terrifying explosion that swallowed the monster. A victory notification sounded as the Ghost Bat Monkey was officially defeated. Black smoke rose from the corpse, marking the rookie team's first achievement. The three collapsed onto the snow from exhaustion, yet satisfied smiles remained on their faces. They could hardly believe they had truly slain a D-rank monster. From the shadows, Sichin silently observed his teammates with an evaluative gaze. He seemed to have witnessed their remarkable growth through this battle. The monster's corpse gradually dissolved, leaving behind a precious item, Ghost Bat Monkey Finger Bone. Malong and his teammates had proven their strength. Xiangzhu regained his confidence, scoffing that the monster was merely small fry. His arrogance instantly dispelled the tense atmosphere. Sichin gave a rare smile, generously praising the team for performing well. Recognized by their leader, Malong and the Xiang brothers were overjoyed by the unimaginable achievement. The dungeon monitoring system suddenly announced that all monsters had been eliminated, a result no one had expected from a group of students who had just graduated. The old director stood agape in shock, sweat streaming down his face. He could not believe the so-called useless students had accomplished such a miracle. The live footage showed a D-rank monster being swiftly defeated. The disparity in rank seemed to have been completely erased by Sichin's team. The most powerful figures in the Awakener world were stunned by this performance. Their eyes revealed both doubt and curiosity. Carl Cavendish smiled with interest as he observed Sichin on the screen. He concluded that this young man was displaying exceptionally outstanding talent. Sichin's cold face appeared full of aura amid the snowstorm. Carl Cavendish narrowed his eyes thoughtfully. Feeling that Sichin resembled someone he once knew, his curiosity began to intensify like never before. Sichin, huh? I will remember this name. Carl Cavendish thought to himself, his smile growing more mysterious as he had found a seed full of potential. The atmosphere in the observation room became extremely tense and silent. The bespectacled official could only stand frozen, while the old director was utterly flustered. To ease the situation, the old director hurriedly redirected everyone's attention to the remaining team. That team had also advanced deep into the center of another dungeon. The screen displayed spectacular combat scenes of the opposing team. They were coordinating seamlessly to repel the ferocious monster swarm in Devil's Cave. Sigrid could not help but marvel at the students' smooth coordination. She remarked that they fought no less professionally than seasoned hunting squads. Carl Cavendish nodded in approval, feeling that this year's rookie quality was truly not bad at all. A promising graduation season was unfolding before them. However, a sinister smile appeared on the face of the mastermind behind everything. He knew this was only the beginning, and the real show was yet to come. The D-rank dungeon Gloom Vine Grotto appeared, filled with danger and swarming with noxious toadstool monsters. Though they were only flower soldiers, just looking at those mouths made it clear something was seriously off. Gong Xian's niece played her instrument fiercely, unleashing withering him that significantly weakened the monsters. Truly born into greatness, her debuff skill looked insanely top-tier. Her teammate shouted for everyone to gather the monsters into one spot. This guy was no slouch either, purple energy swirling around his hand as he prepared to finish them off. The Star Mage's astral fusion skill exploded, wiping out the poisonous mushrooms in an instant. With power erupting like that, D-rank mobs were nothing more than punching bags. A shadow flashed by accompanied by the sharp ringing of a sword. One look at that draw stance, and you knew someone was about to get deleted by a true expert, no doubt about it. The skill's searing fracture erupted, cleaving the monster apart within a blazing sea of flames. That overwhelmingly powerful strike proved a completely different level of mastery. It was none other than Gong Ting, the C-rank flame soldier with blazing eyes. He looked extremely confident in his domineering strength right now. Gong Ting's entire group laughed loudly, saying these monsters were just like the ones they fought during training. When you've got backing, exams really do feel like a casual outing. One member of the team broke into a cold sweat, secretly thinking that the Gong family had definitely interfered with this graduation exam. Knowing the right people at the right time makes life automatically easy. They charged straight toward the boss cave, eager to secure first place as soon as possible. Gong Ting led proudly at the front, not sparing a single thought for the hidden dangers ahead. Meanwhile, atop the snowy mountain, Sichin and his teammates were enduring bone-chilling cold. His gaze remained calm, as if he had already anticipated everything. Finally, the group reached the summit of Cloudwood Summit, an extremely harsh D-rank dungeon. None of them could believe they had actually climbed this far. The boss Frostwraith Ape appeared, massive and ferocious as it gnawed on its prey, truly a nightmare for any freshly graduated student on their first hunt. Sichin's teammates froze in place, hearts pounding and legs trembling at the sight of the dungeon lord. They understood that one single slap from it would be enough to log them out of existence. A close-up of the giant ape's savage face, its crimson eyes brimming with killing intent, it seemed to have already detected the intruders daring to step into its territory. Malong screamed in terror when he saw the monster staring directly at them. This nightmare far exceeded anything he had imagined for the exam. The snow ape roared and charged like a raging white storm, while his teammates ran desperately. Sichin stood still like a statue, completely unfazed. Sichin suddenly dashed forward, delivering a lightning-wreathed kick straight to the monster's face. He was so fast the ape didn't even understand what had happened. A massive surge of energy erupted, blasting the gigantic boss backward in an instant. Sichin's power was now on an entirely different level. The snow ape was sent flying like a ball, flipping midair, in the blink of an eye, as Sichin moved in front of it once again. He followed up with a fatal strike, slashing across the boss's body as blood sprayed everywhere. Sichin continued unleashing blazing energy slashes. The colossal monster was now nothing more than lifeless fragments beneath the feet of this lightning assassin. Malong and the others stared wide-eyed, unable to believe Sichin had finished the boss so easily. It felt like they had just watched an action movie. A notification panel appeared. Sichin received a mere 200 EXP and a piece of fur. Such a pathetic reward made him start feeling that something was seriously wrong. Sichin froze, thinking that killing a D-rank dungeon lord for such pitiful EXP meant the boss earlier was definitely just a counterfeit fake. After the ice ghost ape was taken down, the team unexpectedly discovered a stash of high-quality mana crystals. Looking at Sichin's eyes, he clearly sensed something was off. Xiangzhua was overjoyed and immediately rushed toward the hollow tree filled with treasure. Truly, working a lifetime can't compare to stumbling upon a pot of gold once. The whole group was insanely excited. A close-up of the sparkling mana crystals radiating brilliant light that dazzled anyone who looked at them. Judging by experience, these were at least mid-grade, worth an outrageous fortune. They believed that selling this haul would completely change their lives, allowing them to live in luxury forever. The joy was written all over Malong and the brothers' faces. But just as the team was celebrating, Sichin suddenly shouted for everyone to stop. His warrior instincts told him the real danger had only just begun. A frigid surge of energy suddenly erupted, blasting everything around it away. Malong and the others were sent flying before they could even comprehend what was happening under the terrifying pressure. Sichin's expression changed as he sensed the presence of an extremely powerful entity. He immediately entered combat stance, eyes blazing with vigilance toward the new enemy. The skill Arctic Nova was activated, freezing the entire surrounding area in an instant. This level of power far exceeded that of a normal D-rank graduation dungeon. Sichin's teammates were frozen solid inside blocks of eternal ice. Their communication devices began malfunctioning, emitting frightening static noises. At that exact moment, the monitoring screen in the control room suddenly displayed a glaring red. No signal. The transmission from Sichin's team had completely vanished, shocking all the VIPs. The old director with his signature thick mustache revealed a sinister grin, thinking the kids had fallen into the monster's trap. He believed these so-called trash were nothing but a burden to society. Carl Cavendish was concerned for the students' lives and wanted the rescue team to intervene immediately. But it seemed someone intended to use the students' lives to test something. All eyes were fixed on the distorted screen with extreme tension. No one knew what was truly happening inside that deathly dungeon. The principal with the scar on his face remained strangely calm, He asserted that the students' survival indicators were still stable, so there was no need to rush intervention. He believed the decision to withdraw should remain in the students' hands as long as they were still capable. Back in the dungeon, Malong was so cold he kept sneezing, snot running down his nose. The bone-piercing chill was steadily eroding everyone's fighting spirit. Thanks to possessing a cloud-class profession, Malong managed to endure slightly within the endless snow. Seeing his teammates frozen around him made him shudder in fear. A chilling kihihi laughter echoed as a massive shadow gradually took shape. A skeleton king exuding soul-crushing pressure suddenly appeared behind them. The skeleton king floated in the snowy sky, radiating a deep blue aura of death. Could this be the true lord, the one who fully ruled this demonic cave?